3, 2, 1. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
Nice.
That was a line.
Yeah.
That
was a great line.
A couple movies now.
An amazing line.
My name's Adam. I do the YMS thing, and this is Sardonicast, a podcast that we do.
I'm Ralph the Movie Maker from Ralph the Movie Maker YouTube.
And I'm Alex Maichi. And yeah,
Spider-Man.
Doc Ock's back, baby.
Spider-Man.
Spoilers!
Was so good.
We're going to talk about the Spider-Man.
It made me cry. It made me cry 5 times.
Ralph's crying
I
right
loved
now.
It.
Spoilers for the new Spider-Man, everybody. And if you're I was going to say, if you're watching this in 10 years from now, it might not be the new one, but then it's like, well, why would they care about Spider-Man? No Way Out. Spider-Man A Way Out. That's the title.
Oh, cool.
Spider-Man, Get Out.
Yeah. Jordan Peele's
Get out of here.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really stupid, but I liked it a lot.
I mean, it was kind of like Jordan Peele's Us, because there were like multiple versions of people like going around.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Yeah, in a different way. I mean,
okay, yeah.
The entire script is essentially just an excuse to get these Spider-Mens together.
Sure.
And the excuses aren't always great. I'll talk about the plot in a bit, but I guess first of all, let's just marvel at the ultimate fan service film that they've created.
There's a point
basically.
I didn't care though. I did not care sure, we could critique it and we will, but I just did not care watching the movie at all.
It didn't stop me from enjoying myself.
It was so good.
It's just too much fun.
It was incredibly fun. It's just kind of like, it makes critics seem so like, who even cares? Like, why are you criticizing this? Like,
this more criticism.
Like, it's everything you want to see, kind of.
Never again.
It made me put my pen down. Yeah. It's fan service, but it's good fan service, and it's fun, and it's well made, and it's character driven, and it's creative and original in ways.
Yeah, you said it. You hit the nail on the head with the it's in service of character. You know, there's definitely like a bunch of like references, and it is all about like celebrating the Spider-Man movies from the last like 20 years, but by the time it concludes and where it takes the lead character, I just feel like this is the strongest out of this like Spider-Man trilogy, the Tom Holland ones, and it kind of it was reaching like emotional points I was not expecting from the movie. It was like kind of weighty stuff happening in the movie. I guess we're in spoilers, but like
hell yeah,
it goes places I wasn't expecting. Like Willem Dafoe steals the show, in my opinion.
Hell yeah!
Like the Green Goblin is so awesome in that first movie, that original Sam Raimi movie. Mm-hmm. But they kind of dropped the ball a little bit with his design, right? Like his mask and everything.
Yeah, whatever.
It's just such a shame to put because you can't cover up Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe, like, you need to see that face, you need to see that smile, you need to see that acting and the energy.
You just mean by the mask being there, period.
Yeah, just like the kind of design. It's been like one of these talking points about that movie for ages, where people have a problem with that Green Goblin.
If there's any criticism to be thrown at that movie, which I still love, I probably love it more than this movie, but it is that costume, And there's like stories of like they had a better costume originally, but it was a bit too complicated or it cost too much money. They couldn't get it to work. So it's just like a goofy Halloween costume, and he's like
when they make the effort to like break the mask, and he's just like covered in rags. It's so much fun.
But there's that scene where he's like leaning against like something on the roof. He looks like really silly, like the Green Goblin. Yeah. Here I like what they did with him a little better. Like they kind of get rid of that costume very quickly. But every villain in here, they either brought back like the best ones or they redeemed like the bad ones, like Jamie Foxx as Electro in this movie. He was actually okay. They like redeemed him somewhat. They redeemed Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man a bit.
This was the best Garfield Spider-Man movie.
it is the best Garfield Spider-Man movie. Did we say spoilers right off the bat? Because I feel like anyone
we did. I shouted it at the very beginning.
Good.
You can't talk about it.
That was the first thing I said.
Yeah, anyone who wants to see it, you should just go see it. Yeah, like I don't feel like our review would affect anyone's perspective on it. That's why I think this is like a critic-proof movie. Like, what are you going to criticize to make people not go see it? People know what they're going to go into. You know, like people complain about the CGI. I'm like, okay, there's CGI in it. Like, okay, like these are things I'm used to at this point. Like, it's so none of it deterred me from the experience. Like, I just thought it was so fun.
I've got plenty of criticisms. I wouldn't say that they're to get people not to see the movie or anything.
It did not deter. I just thought it was such a great experience. Yeah, it's like totally designed to get those emotions out of you.
Yeah,
that's what it's designed to do. Yeah, and I think it works. You actually know these guys from like cinema history. I remember seeing these guys in theaters like years ago when I was a kid, and seeing them all these years later. It has that profound impact on you. You get excited. It's cool to see all these characters like Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina get a scene together. Like that's awesome. Like they knew each other, and it makes sense.
I mean, they didn't in the Raimi universe.
Yeah, that was one thing I was confused
Alfred Molina was never in Spider-Man 1, but you would get the sense like they're both scientists. Maybe they know each other from like osmosis, or maybe they met at a party or something. Like, they're both like big scientists at the time. So it was cool to see how they have a scene together. You get to see Tom Holland have a scene with like, Alfred Molina, and like it's like all these character interactions are great. Like,
and they're true to their characters too. Like with the whole chip funny on Doc Ock and like repairing it. It's just because they're plucked up from an interesting point, because it's like part of the conflict where, because Peter is such like a moral, he's a good guy, he's kind of naive, and he wants to save like half of the villains that have been plucked right before they die. So he knows if they're going back, they're going to die. And the moral conflicts they bring up with Peter is like, it's proper Spider-Man stuff. So by the time you get to that kind of end scene in the coffee shop, it really feels like a big payoff. There's actually a bunch of really satisfying payoffs. Like the whole Aunt May thing, I thought was surprisingly well handled.
Yes,
because they've been dodging around the quote, the responsibility.
You thought that was well handled?
Yeah, I thought that was like a funny...
I like that they just said it again.
That was the most comical scene in the movie for me. That scene I was like fucking laughing.
This is all I'm going to say. Compared to The Amazing Spider-Man, where you have like Martin Sheen like dodging around the line. He's basically saying the line, but he's like, if you have the moral obligation to have responsibility...
You got to say the line.
It's terrible. This is so much better. You care about Aunt May, and you've had like 3 movies with her, and it's like right before, spoiler, her death. Like, okay.
Yeah, that's part of my problem with it. Is like the tone of the scene is conflicting with the fact that it's just a reference, Like every other time there's a reference in the film, I'm something of a scientist myself, or if Spider-Man talks about his back, it's like, it's always done so in a very like tongue-in-cheek sort of like, haha, whatever, you can cringe at it, but it doesn't really matter sort of way. But in the context of that scene where it's like, she's dying down, it's like they're pulling the formulated, like, okay, we're doing this music, dying in her arms sort of thing, like, all of that in the same scene is like Peter with great power comes. I was like, and then Jon Favreau pulls up out of fucking nowhere, finds the perfect parking spot to just start yelling and crying. He's like, "No, Peter, you gotta get out of here!" It was just like, oh my god, that was like the funniest part of the whole fucking movie for me. Like, I liked the movie. I'm just saying, like, that scene was like a lot. Like, it was like it didn't feel like it matched the tone of what was happening there.
Yeah. I think it's core to the character. Like that's always been like in the comics and everything. It's his whole mantra. It's like the backbone of the character, and having it like just being jumped around like Ralph was saying in those Amazing Spider-Man movies is so frustrating, because you just it is the line, it is what you want to hear, and kind of having have Aunt May saying it over Uncle Ben.
That's this whole movie. It gives you what you want to hear, what you want to see. It's not shying away from any of it. It gives you everything you want in a Spider-Man film.
You can say perfect. It's not a reference.
You can't say it's corny because it's Spider-Man. Like, that's the point.
I mean, I can still
that's
say
the
it's corny.
whole point of Spider-Man.
You can say that it's not Spider-Man. A reference. That's fine. Okay. You can say that it's not a reference or whatever. But to most people, especially people who associate it with the first film, that's what it's going to come across as. I mean, I'm not a comic book person, so regardless of how important it is to the comic books, I feel like the line could have been included in a different scene. You could have still had some emotional weight if it was like, I don't know, closer to like there was like some other drama with her and Peter or something. Like it was a weird point to have like this whole climactic, like, she's dying. Like, it felt weirdly inappropriate to throw that line in there for me.
To me, it was like the equivalent of the Uncle Ben death. It's like crucial to him becoming.
Yeah, but that already happened. Right? So it felt like a reference. This isn't like a new instance.
How did it happen to this Peter?
No, it didn't, but we're all familiar with it. We're all people who have seen the other films. That's who it's marketing towards. They have the villains from the other films, right? Like we're the target demographic being people who have seen the other films.
I don't know. I feel like it's one of the checkboxes just for the character. Like, if you're doing like a Superman movie, you got to like do certain things. It's like one of the things that is just required from Spider-Man.
I mean, I'm just saying, like,
story.
The fact that it was in the death scene is like really weird.
Sure, I like that it's right before her death too, and then it wasn't thrown in at some random point in the movie. It's thrown in at a crucial point in the movie where it's like really has that, it's an emotional scene after. Like, they didn't just throw it in like early, like, oh, Peter, great power comes great responsibility. Like, yeah, I thought everything about it was just so well done.
It feels like someone could have said, "Say the line, Bart." It's like that's what it feels like to me. But anyway, well, let's not get hung up on this too much.
There are about a million other points in this movie where I think I could agree with you.
Exactly.
But there's so many, but not that one. That one actually I thought was fitting. Like, that is Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Not put it in there would deflate from the
because then it feeds into his decision at the end, which is
yeah,
like his moral conflict
and his whole character. Yeah, like
it is
sacrifice, right?
Cheesy as fuck.
Oh yeah, it's cheesy as hell.
I feel like that's something that couldn't work for me, like erasing everyone's memory, because it could give the sense like none of this mattered. But I also, I did enjoy that, like, Peter Parker made that choice and like he sacrificed something he loved. It shows that he's kind of grown as a character. Even if I could see how you would not like that plot point as much, but like I did like that Peter made that choice.
Yeah.
I was confusing it with something else.
And I did like that, people remember Spider-Man anyway. Like, Spider-Man is still around. So it's not like this character of Spider-Man that has been built up in the MCU is now, like, gone. That people remember that character. They just don't remember Peter Parker.
Also, the Tom Holland timeline doesn't matter that much. It's the Tom Holland.
I like there was like, Tobey Maguire, we got to talk about him, but I like the line where he's like, "Oh, the Avengers, what's that?" Because, he doesn't have the Avengers in, like, his movies.
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were quite good, and I enjoyed a lot with what they did with their characters, especially Andrew Garfield, who they kind of treat as, like, the fuck up. I mean, they call him the third Spider-Man.
It's almost like insulting the movie straight up. Like, they like acknowledge how bad, like, Electro was and stuff, basically.
They make fun of the pool of electric eels.
Yeah.
Like, you fell in a vat of electric eels. They say that twice.
You gotta understand, though, that this is, like, really par for the course for, like, nostalgia remake. Like, the same type of this is exactly what, like, Disney has been doing for a long time. They always are retroactively.
This is a Disney movie, technically.
Yeah, to Disney, Sony, whatever. But they are always retroactively criticizing the previous incarnations. Like in the Aladdin, they are always like, "Oh, that was stupid," or in the new Lion King, like, "Oh, you just say farted." Like, they're always retroactively criticizing. I wish they would criticize the film that they're in at the same time, because they have about the same level of self-awareness, or in terms of, like, the plot makes just as much sense. So for Tom Holland universe Spider-Man, for them to have a joke of being like, "Oh, you fell in a thing and then you got your superpowers? Wow, that's kind of dumb." It's like, yeah, well, so is the plot of this movie. But they never criticize it until they're in the next version of it. They're always looking backwards, like, that's stupid. This one, nothing wrong with it. That's kind of annoying, but whatever.
I've said it before, but there's something about Spider-Man specifically in the multiverse angle where this whole kind of nostalgia reference stuff. I'm just way more forgiving of this movie because it's just been such a core part of Spider-Man, and that whole universe is the different Spider-Man in the different multiverses and the crossovers and everything, and that it just really didn't bother me that much, that kind of stuff. Although in the back of my mind, especially when, like, the Lizard was on screen, I was like, it's such a shame those movies weren't a bit better, because they're restricted to the design of that character, and I didn't love
they were definitely focusing on some villains more than others. Like, I feel the Lizard in this film was a bit underdeveloped compared to the rest of them.
He wanted to stay in the van. They didn't want to animate him more.
I'm fine with them leaving Lizard.
I was just kind of confused with, like, what kind of Sandman was doing as well. Like, they didn't really 100% like Sometimes he was with Spider-Man, sometimes he was against him. But I felt they really fleshed out like Jamie Foxx. They made him much better in this film. Obviously, Alfred Molina is great. Willem Dafoe is great in this movie. Like I thought every scene with him was really good for the most part.
And Alfred
he was
Molina.
really menacing. Yeah, Alfred Molina as well. They were both awesome. For sure. Yeah, and Toby and Andrew Garfield. Like they were making fun of Andrew Garfield a lot, but I did like great. Some of the resolution they gave to his character as well. Like I do like the thing where he rescues MJ. Like that was actually a good moment. They tried to like resolve many things from the other Spider-Man movies in a kind of more satisfactory way. Like the villain doesn't die. Spider-Man actually saves them. Like that's cool. That's really cool that this other version of Spider-Man saved all these people and like cured them. Like that's awesome.
It's a fan fiction, but it's well produced.
It is.
It's giving everybody exactly what they wish they could have, sort of thing. It's like, I wish that this would happen, and then it just happens.
People own the rights to the character. Yeah, so they own the rights to the character. So it's a little more. You get the sense that they really love this character and that they're trying to protect it, and like most of the movies they make with this character are really good. You know, I obviously the Amazing Spider-Man movies are an exception. Those are fucking awful. God. And I hate like now there's this whole like people are like, oh, the Amazing Spider-Man movies are actually really good now because
that's
this
really
whole
funny.
like I don't know uprising. It's like no, those movies are dog shit. Yeah, like especially that second one. Like Jamie Foxx is terrible. And this movie's like making fun of those. Like I fought a Russian guy in a rhinoceros suit. Like Andrew Garfield says that in this movie. It's so stupid. Yeah, like that's the
retroactively critical. You say like when I said the word fan fiction, you're like, oh no, they own the rights to this. They're a lot more respectful about the characters. You say that almost as if that's the norm. That's not the norm. Like when people own rights to the characters, they usually treat them like shit. Like Mass Effect, I saw your jar thing, Alex. I completely agree. Mass Effect 3 is just fucking awful. The Saw franchise, like they own the rights to that. Look what they did with Spiral. Fucking you name it. Like how many of these where it's just like, oh, they own the rights to it, but they have zero idea what the fan base actually wants. And I think that is super commendable for this film because they actually have their finger on the pulse of what people are actually interested in. You know what's fucking
100%.
Crazy? Somebody posted a link in the subreddit in some point in 2020 in an episode in the with Cosmonaut Marcus guesting on our podcast. I was saying like, wouldn't it be awesome if we had all three Spider-Men and Tobey and Garfield and Tom Holland in the same movie? And so I didn't say it was likely to happen, so I didn't predict it in that sense, but I did say people would watch it, so I guess I was right about that. They're probably watching and stealing my ideas. Give me money.
I made some accurate predictions as well with this movie. So
you talking about Venom?
Yeah, well, we can talk about Venom. There was actually,
if you want to bring up Venom, man.
Yeah, I was actually kind of disappointed in that part. But yeah, say what you were going to say, Alex.
I was pleased that the Venom didn't show up in any really major way at all. It was almost funny to me. It's the first after credits. It's just Tom Hardy basically talking to himself at a bar. And then he just gets zapped away because they clearly didn't want to actually include him. This is all like because of this messed up Sony deal. Yeah, it's like it seemed like very contractual to me, like very
That's why I was disappointed.
We're acknowledging it, and I was even surprised they left the Venom goo behind, like kind of teasing. Is this how Venom's being introduced into the MCU? Like
that would be funny if they do another Venom,
that's it, yeah.
but that's not Tom Hardy.
Do.
Yeah, so the symbiote. From a different universe.
Tom Hardy's only purpose for this universe was to like bring the goo into Tom Holland's world, and then he left. And that's it. And like that was pretty disappointing. Yeah, like the sense I got was that they don't really want Tom Hardy to be a part of it. Also,
I don't know how
if we're going by the logic of this plot, the logic of the plot is that everyone who knows Peter Parker like gets teleported into the universe, right? But Tom Hardy's Venom never really knew who Peter Parker was.
But at the end of the other Venom movie, he said Spider-Man and he licked the television.
But that was after he got teleported into the MCU.
No, remember there was that line. They said that Venoms can, absorb all information in the universe or some dumb shit. Do you remember that?
Really? Is that how?
There's like some weird throwaway line. That's how he knew. Yeah.
Oh, I guess I'm wrong then, yeah.
It's so dumb.
At least it wasn't like articulated.
Well, then how come not every other symbiote went there?
That's true.
Man, this is Venom we're talking about. Like.
Yeah, that was disappointing. The sense I got is that they just have the goo now, and they're gonna like cast out.
We got
Hardy.
the goo.
But like, yeah, how could they have worked Venom in any way that would have added anything to the story?
Not that Venom,
because
for
all
sure.
the Spider-Men showing up. Yeah, exactly. There's no way you could have done it, because at least having all the Spider-Men there, they bounce off the Peter from this movie, and they help him progress as a character, because he's like, you know, he's overcome with rage at the end, and they have like similar experiences from the different dimension or whatever, so they're able to help him through it. So they're there for like a character reason, whereas like if Venom just showed up, that would be 100% pure fan service without, you know, not even rooted in anything, just to show off Venom again, you know.
Yeah.
I can't
that was
stand
great.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, like the passing of the torch between the different Spider-Men.
Yeah.
It was great. Lots of funny moments with them. Ned calls like Peter, and they all turn around. It's like, yeah, they're all the same exact person. I like how much they talked about the organic web shooters, like, you know, Tobey Maguire's web shooters compared to like the other ones. It's like, yeah, Andrew Garfield has to make them like in a lab somewhere. They like the chemistry was great. The way they talked and like all that stuff. It's what you wanted to see, and they gave you a ton of that.
It was a good. They gave you a ton of that stuff, and it was funny. Have these characters interact with each other. I mean, the excuses weren't necessarily good, but the the idea to do it was good.
Well, I think using Doctor Strange as the kind of jump-off point character to get it moving is a really good idea. I like taking characters you wouldn't expect to work together, and I really care about the action scenes in these superhero movies. Like, it's like so core to what makes them work, and I really enjoyed that Doctor Strange action scene.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite one.
For sure.
That's like,
trippy.
Yeah, that was my favorite action scene.
It was really trippy. And yeah, like Spider-Man having to fight Doctor Strange, you know, that's not what you'd expect from this movie. Everyone was against Spider-Man in this film, even Doctor Strange. And yeah, it reminded me of kind of Homecoming, which is another one of my more liked MCU movies, where he has that Iron Man kind of camaraderie in that. It did kind of tie back to that, where now you have Doctor Strange kind of taking on that father figure part. But he's like an asshole, Doctor Strange, which is great. I'm excited for the Doctor Strange movie too, which was the other post-credit thing was like a trailer for Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I didn't stick around for that one.
Madness. Oh, you didn't?
It's literally just a trailer. It was
a good trailer.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it was better than the Eternals like post-credit scenes. That's all I kept thinking, like how much better this was than Eternals. Like all those characters in Eternals, I did not give a fuck about any of them. And
it is inverse Eternals, isn't it?
And here I cared about everybody. I cared about the 3 Spider-Men, and you know, obviously that was an epic image. Like when all of them are together, like that's really cool.
Sam Raimi is directing the next Doctor Strange, so
yeah. It all ties
That'll be
together.
Well, what did you think of the direction from John Watts in this one, then? Because that's been a recurring criticism for the previous 2.
Of course.
I think from all of us.
Not as good as Raimi's Spider-Man films, but notably improved. It's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
There was definitely a conscious effort to improve upon the other 2 John Watts films in terms of framing, cinematography, lighting, etc. There were actual dialogue scenes where I was like, oh, it's really interestingly shot, you know, like Peter's like walking around and it looked like it was like attached to him, like Darren Aronofsky-esque, you know, like just using the space of the environment and not just, you know, not just reverse shot with really bland lighting. And it didn't look like a Judd Apatow movie. And I was very, very pleasantly surprised about that. Very, very satisfied.
Judd Apatow, kind of. Yeah, I did like it more than I think the last one. It had a little more like energy to it. Like it felt a little fresh, you know, which can be hard for like a third movie. Yeah, more consequence. Yeah, like a lot of character things happen. I would say like there's a lot going on in this movie. You know, there's that whole setup from the previous film with Mysterio revealing his identity, and you know, like that kind of gets thrown to the wayside eventually because there's so many other things going on in this movie. Like that's like the first 20 minutes, and then
what the
like,
beep?
All these other things.
You're allowed one F word. Just use it. Is it PG or PG-13?
PG-13.
Yeah, use an F word.
It might as well be G. I mean, there's like nothing in this movie I thought was that.
There's a stabbing,
hardcore,
and a death.
Especially compared to the Sam Raimi ones.
Oh yeah,
like,
those ones
crazy
are great.
violent.
Fuck yeah.
Oh yeah, they're really bloody.
Hell yeah.
Do you think Spider-Verse took any of the oomph away from this movie?
What do you mean?
In terms of kind of beating them to the punch of the multiverse, pulling in the different Spider-Men
I thought that's what gave them the idea. They were like, "Oh, this is a great idea."
No, they
actually, to
listened
do,
to
all
our
these different
podcast.
universes. Oh yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, they listened to our podcast. It's so good. I think they saw Spider-Verse. They're like, this kind of works. Like this whole multiverse thing. Let's try it again with just Spider-Man. It's interesting how they only do it with Spider-Man. I guess he's just
There's
like
something
the best
about that character. It
the
just
best
works
villains.
really well.
Yeah,
Yeah, the best villains, the best.
they really only do it with him. And yeah, it was I don't know. I fucking love the shit out of everything. It was so good. It was so incredible.
Yeah, even like I don't normally really enjoy the Marvel humor too much. Like it's fine. I'm not like laughing out loud a lot of the time, but there's some good jokes in here, a couple stinkers, but for the most part, I find the character so charming. I find just the dynamics of the way all the characters interact, and yeah, throwing in that fan service shit with, you know, Doc Ock and everything.
The whole thing's fan service.
It was funny. Well, yeah.
Yeah. The whole movie is fan service. Yeah.
Like, I was actually, when you were talking about critics, I got curious and looked up. I tried to find the lowest rated reviews on Metacritic for the critical things. Pretty much all of them are just saying that it's fan service, which is funny because it's like that's
describing the movie.
Yeah,
they're like, it's a corporation that made a movie that has references to it. It's like, yes, we know that. That's not a review. It's like we obviously know that. I wanted to see it anyway because I love Spider-Man, and they fucking nailed it. I mean, it's just like it's everything you want to see in one little package.
Mm-hmm. So why are we okay with the fan service aspect here, but we reject like a Ready Player One?
Because
I'll tell you exactly why. Is because those are just references, right? This is incorporating characters that we love and giving them something new to do. Right? That's the fan service in this film. And sure, they do sprinkle in references. There are quotes and callbacks, but that's not the meat of what it is. In a film like Ready Player One, it's literally just the reference is it. That's all it is. It's not, hey, let's take these beloved characters and have them interact. Let's write these characters in a way where they're doing something new in a different situation, and now they're together and we're rehabilitating this character, blah, blah, blah. That's not what any of that is, right? Space Jam 2 is just references, right? Yeah, so that's the big difference is utilizing these previous characters and actually doing something with them and caring about them and seeing where they go, adding to the story, adding to the timeline instead of just, hey, remember that this movie existed? Like, yeah, of course I do. Like, what the fuck? What do you get from that, right? So anyway, that's why for me.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel most people are on board with this too. Like, I feel most people agree with what we're saying, that it's not just references. Like, I wanted to see Willem Dafoe play the Green Goblin again because he's the best actor at playing that part.
Yeah. The same for Doc Ock. Like, you just can't recast
It's an acknowledgement that the series got it right the first time in many ways. That's all it is.
I was half convinced the reason they kind of like repair Doc Ock and everything was that maybe they were going to try to come up with some excuse to keep like Doc Ock behind and have him like, that's just like the Doc Ock of this universe or something. Because how can you recast those characters at this point? Like, you can't introduce a Green Goblin or Doc Ock at this point.
J.K. Simmons especially too.
Yeah. They're very aware of that.
Yeah, they didn't even teleport him from the other universe. They were like, this is every universe's J. Jonah Jameson. It's the same. I wish they would have actually done that as part of a joke, though. I wish that J. Jonah Jameson, like, maybe they would have acknowledged, like, hey, that's the same as my JJ, or maybe the two of them would have met up or something. That would have been a funny, maybe even just an after credits scene, like. I don't know. That would have been a funny thing.
In Far From Home, that's like they set him up in that movie, so that's why like they didn't. I guess they didn't come up with this concept yet. Mm-hmm.
He's like an Alex Jones sort of joke.
Oh hell yeah!
He's like a bit like the PS4 game did a similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's just like capitalizing off of the hatred of Spider-Man.
Oh, the comparisons to Alex Jones are so blatant in this movie. He's like, I've got my supplements I'm selling you now.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's so funny.
But that was hilarious.
Exactly. I love it.
You were referencing Alex Jones in like a $500 million superhero movie.
I know. That's what's crazy about it. I want to know if Alex Jones has ever acknowledged this. If somebody has a clip of Alex Jones talking about the fact that he is being parodied in Marvel films, I want to hear him talk about that, because that sounds hilarious. Maybe he'll never acknowledge it. I don't know. But it's almost weird, because you'd almost expect, like, a company as big as Disney to be like, yeah, maybe let's not reference someone like that. You know?
Yeah, but they did.
But exactly.
I love how they did it with that
for
character.
him.
Because that character's just there. Like, he never gets his comeuppance or anything. There's never a point where like the movie's like, oh yeah, he's wrong. Like they know you're smart enough to know that J. Jonah Jameson's like a lying, manipulative fucking asshole. Like it knows it knows you're intelligent. At least it doesn't
he's
spell
just
it
being
out
like
for
an
you.
opportunist.
Yeah. Like there's never the point where they say like, oh, he's an opportunist. Like you get it. Like you have him in his basement recording, and then the following scene with him, he's like in a big studio. Oh, you get why. He wants greed. He wants money. Like, he wants the prestige. Yeah, it's not so, like, spelled out dialogue. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't expecting the, like, Daredevil inclusion. I was under the
That was
impression
so
that
weird.
they wanted to distance themselves from the
reference.
Netflix stuff.
Was that a guy from the Netflix thing?
That is the guy who plays Daredevil
shit.
from the Netflix
Yeah.
show.
I never watched
Yeah.
it. That's really funny.
So I was just under the impression they wanted to distance themselves and that they are technically in the same universe, but there was like no chance of them ever actually crossing over. But there he was. So.
Yeah.
I don't know what that
Yeah,
means.
Yeah, that was
It
weird.
could have
Is it
just
just
been
a
the same
reference, or is
actor.
it- yeah.
But that was cool. Yeah, I think people like that for the most part. Some other references I noticed, like Electro's theme song from Amazing
very
Spider-Man 2
briefly.
very
Yeah.
briefly. It wasn't
And
like the
then
worst
Doc
parts.
Ock's
It was
theme, I
just the
noticed.
dubstep.
Yeah.
Doc Ock's
From
theme.
Spider-Man
The original
2?
Spider-Man. The original Spider-Man theme.
Near the
Yeah.
end. That was appropriately used. I was like, man, bringing back the memories.
No,
yeah.
obviously the Green Goblin's like ball and like the glider and the arms, Doc Ock's arms. We said with great power comes great responsibility.
Mhm.
There's probably a million others in there that I just didn't even write down.
Yeah, I mean the music was improved overall, even not including the callback. Even not including the reincorporated music. It had so much more energy than the other John Watts films. It was just very,
for sure.
very
I thought
fitting.
it was more entertaining, than probably the other ones. It just had so much energy and fun. Like it just knew what it was. Like it was so, great for what it is.
Yeah, there
It's
were like
very light.
montages where the music was like really helping with that. I think near the beginning,
Doctor Strange action scene.
I'm trying to try to remember, but like I found the whole like everybody's a paparazzi following him to school thing to be a little weird. It wasn't one of the most memorable parts of the movie. It was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is what's happening, sort of thing. But felt a bit cheesy.
Yeah. I didn't like they just kind of abandon all that and kind of make way for the stuff you see in the trailer, like the multi-dimensional stuff. They just kind of drop that.
Yeah, there's a lot to fit in this movie. What is it, 2.5 hours long? But it was really well paced. It didn't feel like a long movie.
It was super entertaining.
Yeah, perfect pacing for what it is. Didn't really drag on. They really utilized the runtime appropriately.
Yeah.
They had a lot to do. A lot of
it's
characters,
fairly long
right?
too.
So
It's 2.5 hours long.
yeah.
It was like the Avengers of Spider-Man, like they all come together.
pretty
You
much.
see all these characters come up. They either team up or, they break apart and fight each other. And it's about that dynamic. Like there's a point in the story that all the villains are kind of working with Peter. I thought that was cool. And you see like how they kind of turn on him. And, some of them take sides with Peter. Some of them don't. Like that was cool.
It's just like, why did I mentioned this briefly earlier, but we're talking about so many things that I didn't really properly get to talk about it. But the whole, he wants to stay in the van. Like, and he didn't even say it. It was like MJ or somebody that said it. It was like, oh, where's he? Oh, he wanted to stay in the van. And it's like, I guess that was just because they didn't want to animate him anymore, the lizard guy. But at the same time, if I'm thinking about it in terms of like characters and motivations, like, okay, you're trying to rehabilitate these villains. He's still a villain. You're really just going to leave him alone in the van? Like, in terms, like a character, he wouldn't do that. like that was weird. And like ultimately not much came of it anyway. He just escaped when the other guys like kind of escaped also.
Yeah,
But
that's why I didn't love the lizard character too much.
Yeah.
He was definitely the weakest out of the villains to me.
Well, sure.
he might as well have said like, I gotta poo, and then stayed in the bathroom the whole time. Like, if you're just gonna have him like, oh, we don't want to animate him right now. Like,
He might as well not have been there.
yeah. So
Like,
I think
just
him
being
and
that character, the
Sandman,
lizard.
their actors just did voiceover work remotely, like voice acting work remotely. Like they didn't actually show up, sort of thing. Like they weren't
for the most part. There is like
And
one
then final
shot toward
scenes
the end
that-
with
yeah.
Sandman and Lizard as like normal
I heard that they
people,
reused
but,
some
yeah.
footage from the other films for.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Some people on the Spider-Man subreddit who have watched those other films a billion times really noticed it. So I don't know what it would be like to. I've criticized
That's
films for
interesting.
reusing footage like that because I'm familiar with that other stuff. So I gotta, just say as someone who didn't experience it that way, like other people might be put off by that aspect.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I could see how you would
Okay,
be.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
And any concerns about like the de-aging? Did you notice anything weird with that?
I thought Melina looked great, honestly.
Yeah.
Me
It
too.
never pulled me out or anything. I thought they looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
And Willem as well.
Part of me wishes I could see old, like the younger Toby again, but I guess it wouldn't make sense because everybody being pulled out is like, oh, it was right before you died, sort of thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so Peter
Yeah.
would be older. Okay. And then we get other aspects to his character that get fleshed out because of that. I'm like, okay, I guess it's worth it. But
Yeah, I really liked Toby's character in this. He was the wise mentor.
he's a bit more stoic. I miss the silly Toby, but whatever.
Yeah, but he's the oldest one now. He's trying to
Yeah,
be
it makes sense.
Tom
Daddy
Holland's Spider-Man.
Maguire.
And yeah, I really like that. I like the passing of the torch. You literally see the other Spider-Man like kind of give this Spider-Man his right his right of passage.
Bring
It was
back
very,
Bully Maguire.
They never addressed any of that, or
Why?
they were talking about like, how's your relationship with MJ? He's like, oh, it's complicated. I'm like, yeah, obviously you were a fucking asshole in Spider-Man 3. Like, like she probably never wants to get together with you again.
Yeah, I got
Fuck.
six
Well, she was
kids.
kind of an asshole in those movies as well.
They're like, I guess it worked out.
Divorce.
Like, it probably took a while.
Yeah.
He probably had to send her a lot of fucking flowers.
What I'd be really interested in is seeing some deleted scenes for this movie. This would be a movie where I'm like, I'm interested to see what other kind of like references
yeah.
and gags that they were like, nah, this is
For
too much,
sure.
or the runtime is.
There's
effective.
probably a ton. There's probably so much dialogue
Yeah,
between
honestly.
the three Peters. You know,
Yeah. This could be a Blu-ray buy. I could buy this on 4K Blu-ray.
Damn.
I became like a giddy child when like all the Peters were like doing lab work and they were just like working like they had lab coats on. Like that's so fun. That's so
Yeah, it's
fucking
exactly
cool.
what I
It
want
was
to
silly.
see. It's going through the
Yeah.
checklist of Spider.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Yeah, but it's like kind of inherent to Spider-Man, you know? He's kind of goofy
I
and
know.
silly and...
I know,
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
like just right.
Whenever I say silly, I don't necessarily mean bad. It is silly.
the silliness.
You know what's
comes
really
with the
silly
character.
is this is the 8th best movie of all time according to IMDb.
I saw that.
Yeah,
that is
it's got a
fucking
9 right
wild.
now. as I'm looking at it.
Not the 8th best movie of all time.
It's right
For
above
sure.
Pulp Fiction, right underneath Return of the King.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the movie a lot. This is more like a personal love of Spider-Man for me.
I
but
mean, I might put it on my
for a
fucking
superhero movie to make my
best
top 10 list. That's never really happened. Like,
movie. You should
I
include more
bet
than
I'll
10.
see 10 other original movies that are like better
maybe.
than Spider-Man.
At the very
But-
least, I think this might show up on my runner-ups or guilty pleasures or something. I don't know. Because I had a lot of fun watching it.
Definitely, like a guilty pleasure list. Sure, what you're saying is
Yeah.
right. It's references. It's like, you know, it's all those things you're saying, but it's just done with heart, and it's done with someone you actually give a fuck about.
For sure.
It's done with characters you care about, unlike Eternals or anything. Like, I just did not care about that movie at all.
Yeah.
Nothing that was happening.
Yeah.
Marvel's much better at something like this, with light tone, silly. You know what the audience wants. You know.
They really did for this film. That's the craziest part
Yeah.
about it, is it seems like they
Yeah.
they were like, let's just do everything that everybody wants us to do. And again, I'm like
It's for
jealous
everyone.
when I think of
And it's
things like
so
Saw or
unapologetic.
Mass Effect or like pick another franchise and name how they ruined it and just made it more disappointing. Like, I'm jealous that Spider-Man
I know.
Marvel fans just literally get what they want. I'm like, oh fuck, I wish I got what I want.
Yeah.
Give me a good Saw movie again. Fuck.
Oh, dude, yeah, please.
Like, it's so obvious. It doesn't seem like that difficult of a thing to just be like, oh, maybe let's like look at what the fan base likes. Like, it seems crazy because it never happens.
Yeah, this is way more complicated than fixing Saw. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't take nearly as much work as, like, getting this to come together.
I know.
It did,
Like,
you know?
let's get rid of
Yeah.
Tobin Bell. And like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right, yeah.
What are you
Have-
doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's going to happen now is studios are going to see this and they're going to try to replicate what this film does and
course.
fail like completely.
yeah.
They're gonna like totally fuck it up.
Whatever,
It's like,
Disney will just buy him anyway.
What's the like DC equivalent gonna be? It'll be like a Flash. They'll try and do it with the Flash and like run through the different Snyder movies. Yeah,
Jeez,
Yeah, give me a
terrible.
Zack Snyder version of No Way Home. That'd be fucking
DC
great.
is so far behind in every way. Like,
They get Christian Bale. They get all the Batmen together. Oh my god, it's gonna happen.
Wait. Actually, I'm pretty sure that's actually happening.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I think like Michael Keaton is like in this Flash movie that's coming out. Yeah.
whoa.
I'm not making this up right now. I'm pretty
As
sure they're
Batman,
doing this Flash movie they're doing.
Bring back
because in
Adam
the
West.
DC fandom or whatever, they bring back.
I mean, that's fine. I like
the
Michael Keaton's Batman. I mean, that's fine.
Hologram Adam West.
Oh dear.
CG.
CG.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bring him back. Carrie Fisher style.
I don't know. This was such a good time to make this movie too. You know, like Willem Dafoe has been in a lot of great movies recently. The Lighthouse. It's like his stars kind of come back to the forefront a little, and yeah, it's just like I feel it's a really good time to make this movie.
Willem Dafoe is he's such a treasure. I'm happy to see him in things and do good in things.
He's excellent.
You know, yeah, he kills it.
He always gives 100%.
Here's the best performance. Yeah. And they gave him opportunity to do so. They wrote it in a way where he could do that. They didn't, toss him to the side. It's not just about screen time, but it's about what the character's experiencing, you know? He's going through internal turmoil and he's expressing that. It was great for his character and his performance.
Yeah, apparently he'd only do it. He only agreed to do it if he could do like the majority of his own stunts, like the original Spider-Man. So that probably helped. He's actually like present in the action scenes, and it's not just like CG, just shit flying around. Although there's plenty of that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
What about the suits? That's been another thing. What
the fuck were they doing with
that? Was my criticism.
Yeah, because like Toby just flashed that he had it underneath, and then by the time he was actually like swinging around in it, I could barely see it because it was so dark.
I meant more the Tom Holland suits. At least
I hate the Tom Holland suit.
My criticism. I do. I hate like all of the Tom Holland suits. Really, like the Iron Man suit. I don't like his original Homecoming.
It never
suit.
looks real.
If I had any issue with the I have issue with just the suits. And the suit toward the end, I think it could look cool. I didn't really see it that clearly. But I did like they gave him a new suit at the end. It was almost like an acknowledgement that these suits are terrible and they just the designs on them just don't look good. Yeah, I just don't like them.
Especially when the Toby one is right there in the background. You're like, oh, there it is. This is such a good design.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I would have an issue with that. Yeah. Basically, anything this movie does on its own, not everything, but some things you see like they stumble a bit when it comes to their own identity.
Yeah, I don't understand why they would make the Tom Holland Spider-Man suit look like that. It just looks it looks like a weird like piece of silicone polymer or something, like just so it doesn't look like a suit. It looks like it doesn't belong in the environment. It's just the weirdest texture.
Yeah, it's that whole thing that comes with like the nanotechnology stuff. It's like never that fun, really.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like appears out of nowhere. It's just like goop. Whereas, it's inherently way more interesting.
Yeah, it looks
when
like
Toby
a dildo.
has to like, and like with the like robot arms coming out of his back and stuff. Like,
I didn't like that either. Yeah, compared to Doc Ock's arms, which are much bigger and like more mechanical, it looks much cooler. Yeah. Again, they're going with the Stark technology and that shit. But once this next Spider-Man movie comes out, they'll kind of do away with the Stark element. Hopefully, that's kind of. It seems like that's what they're going for.
Have they announced one or what?
Point.
Do we know what's going on with it?
They'll definitely make one. This movie made a shit ton of money, which I knew it would, and I'm glad it did.
Yeah, there's no way they won't.
Everyone wanted
if Tom
to see
Holland's down, I'm sure they'll do it. Like they would have continued with Iron Man if Robert Downey Jr. didn't want an out. You know, probably, right?
Yeah. I do like this is its own kind of trilogy, the Spider-Man Home trilogy, and like you see this kind of Tom Holland character grow into a kind of Spider-Man of sorts, and like these next Spider-Man movies, I think, will kind of be their own thing with the same character, but maybe a different tone. That's kind of the sense I'm getting, like with later Spider-Man films. And I think that's kind of what they should do.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I was just kind of looking at things online. That seems like what people are saying.
And it's nothing to do with the movie, but we talk about bad posters quite a lot. The posters for this movie are really bad. It's like Sony advertising. They're horrendous.
That's Sony. Sony's just, they suck.
That Electro one in particular is really strange. It's like there's like villain character posters. There's like a really weird like Green Goblin close up with like Spider-Man blurred right next to him. It's really bad stuff. It's funny to look at on IMDb.
Fox. I like they just gave up designing like a suit for him or like anything. He's just Jamie Foxx and he has like some electric shit on his chest. That's like, fuck Electro. We can't even make this character work. It's so dumb. I would have liked the green and yellow suit with like the lightning bolt. I think that would have been perfect. They make like a small reference to that. But
so the electricity in this world is yellow and not blue. I don't understand. Like, so the yellow design was like the original comic design, and that was their excuse of getting there, I guess. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because I know in like...
His original design is really goofy.
Yeah. So they turned him away from being a blue man.
Well, they try to like put the electricity over his face in a way that kind of mimics that mask thing he wears in the comics.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But it was like kind of subtle.
Yeah,
it was
you're
very
right.
short. They didn't do it the whole movie. It was like, yeah.
Yeah.
It was only for a little bit. Yeah, it was mainly the Lizard and Sandman I wanted more out of in this film.
What can
I
you
feel
do?
like they were kind of thrown to the wayside compared to the others.
They're not as important.
Yeah, they're not as important. The focus, you want to see Goblin and Doc Ock the most.
Yeah.
I think they're weighted pretty well, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I find it interesting, like, this has been such a pitfall for so many superhero movies. Too many characters, too many villains. And this has got to be one of the first ones that's like, there's so many characters in this movie. Not only is it like all of these villains, but it has all the other Spider-Men as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be curious to know what someone who hasn't seen any of these previous Spider-Man movies, like outside of the Tom Holland ones, would think of this. Because it might be kind of confusing, kind of a clusterfuck.
It's kind of a prerequisite, honestly.
Yeah. It's like but that's already been a thing in the MCU. They kind of have pioneered that. So like by the time Civil War came around, it was already like you're either in or you're not, and this is like just another checklist. You gotta like prep for these MCU movies at this point.
It's the Avengers of Spider-Man. You have to do your homework.
So now the first MCU film is Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Maybe. You do have to see them now if you want to get the full experience from this movie. Yeah, and he's connected to like
Spider-Man
the fucking
3
Iron Man shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Spider-Man 3. Yeah.
They just wanted to like infinitely canonize all of the other Spider-Man films, even the Garfield one. I mean, he was great in this. I loved. This movie would be worse without Garfield in it. He added to it. Honestly,
he was good.
I was happy with him.
I like what they
movie.
did with his character. I actually did. I'm not a huge fan of those movies, but I like what they did with that Spider-Man character. I like that he was the fuck up. They make him the third Spider-Man. Like, that's awesome. He's the fuck up.
Makes you sad because what else?
Movies were better.
I didn't hear you.
It was like he clearly had the potential to be like a great Spider-Man with the just right tone, the right energy.
Not Mark Webb.
Was kind of blown.
He has the look.
Yeah,
like he really
has the look. He's got the kind of idiosyncrasies down.
Yeah,
he was just kind of too edgy skateboarder, cool bro dude in those older ones. It didn't quite work. Whereas here, you see what he could have been.
Yeah, bullied.
It was too soon.
Honestly,
it was too soon after the Spider-Man.
No, but that's he's Spider-Man.
Exactly.
He needs to kind of be like a dweeb.
Yeah, they finally got to bully Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
I think it was too soon after those Tobey movies. The Tobey movies were like really shortly before the Andrew Garfield ones. I feel like those were very fresh in people's heads. And it was like the same movie again. It was just a remake of Spider-Man. These new movies actually do something different with Spider-Man. It's not like the same shit. They throw in characters, but it's not the same plot, you know? Like that's really, it could be really kind of grating to watch the same plot again of Spider-Man.
Damn.
Like, it kills Uncle Ben. We know. Like, holy shit. It's happened before.
Yeah. Sony's really going deep on this Spider-Man stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen the latest Morbius trailer.
Oh, God.
I'm waiting for like Spider-Man, like No Way Home 2, where it's got like, you get the Venom villains in there. You get Venom, Morbius.
He already
Craven.
said Venom in the trailer. Like, in Morbius.
Oh yeah. That
He
Morbius
said-
trailer,
he said,
they were
"I'm
just
Venom."
making as
Haha,
many
just kidding.
references to Spider-Man as they possibly could. Like, yes, this is tied in with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's in the same universe, because otherwise no one would give a shit about it.
Yeah.
That's basically
This
the marketing.
is a
That is
Marvel
the entire
movie.
marketing tactic. It's kind of a Marvel movie. Like,
Yes.
Michael Keaton is in it as the Vulture.
I know, it's so silly. I love that Sony got to do this in a way, because like Disney just wound up acquiring Fox, but for the longest time Fox was just like, no, we're doing our own thing. Forced it. But the fact that Sony was like, okay, let's combine this universe. They've worked out some crazy deal with Marvel where they got to retain ownership of these characters but still managed to create these films with them.
All that really says to me is that like the MCU has no plans for the character of Morbius or like Kraven the Hunter or any of these like spin-off characters. So they're like, yeah, you can make your dumb Morbius movie and have like the Vulture in it or whatever. We'll have the real shit over here.
Why is the Vulture in it? Isn't he in the MCU? And like, I thought Vulture Vulture's in the MCU, and Venom was like in this other universe. With
Sony can
Morbius.
just do whatever the fuck they want. They
I
own the
guess so.
characters.
I'm just very confused at how any of this works. Yeah, and it's only going to get more confusing, I think, as time goes on.
I'm down for it. Morbius will be the next superhero film I see in theaters in like February, you know?
Oh yeah,
I can't think of anything else in between.
It does look funny. It looks like such a bad idea.
Exactly.
It looks
Cringe
kinda-
Joker?
They're
Hell
just
yeah.
doing the Venom thing again. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's just anti. Yeah. Oh,
Love
so
it.
Stupid.
oh man,
Can't wait.
yeah.
We've been praising this movie a lot. I got to talk about, some of the plot shit. And whatever. I'm not allowed to say anything because it's done anyway. Blah, 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 blah. We understand.
Nah, go for it.
But
Go for it. Let's
who
hear it.
At the same
cares?
time-
Who cares?
Hey. Let me do this. I was a bit bothered by the whole Doctor Strange. Like, the entire plot wouldn't have happened if Doctor Strange had just communicated anything to Peter beforehand. The only reason that things fucked up is because he was interrupting his spell, and the only reason he was interrupting his spell is because Doctor Strange just didn't explain anything about it. He was like, oh yeah, your friend's memories will be wiped and they won't know you're Spider-Man. He's like, wait, what? No, I got to do this, and MJ, I want MJ to remember, and my aunt, and blah, 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 and that's what kickstarted the whole movie. And then for some reason at the end of the movie, where it's just like, just do the spell again, and they made a slightly different spell, because they couldn't do the first one again, because reasons, I don't know why, and the slightly different spell was, instead of people not remembering that you are that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, it was no one will remember Peter Parker. And at this moment, finally, Doctor Strange is like, "What? You sure you want to do that, bro?" I was like, "You could have just explained all this before the spell started. Like, were you in a rush? Like, did you have to go get to something else, like Doctor Strange? Like, literally, the entire plot of the movie is just like." Okay. That didn't make any sense.
They'll
That
explain
was
it
really
in
annoying.
Doctor Strange 3.
The
or
only
something.
issue I had with the Doctor Strange thing is when he kicked Peter out after he did the spell, and he's like, "Wait, you didn't even tell admissions, you didn't even call admissions again to plead your case?" And then he kicks him out. It's like, what? Like, he got, like, they're not going to accept him. Like, that's it. Like,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's funny. But I think
he's not like going to call them and like plead their case. Like, oh, you're right, Peter, we'll accept you. Like, I understand why he
I
went to
get
Doctor
that,
Strange in the first place. Like, there's no other way he could have fixed it.
I think
The
that
only
he was
way,
offended that Peter didn't exhaust every possible outcome to
Yeah.
try and resolve
But
it.
I think
before
Peter
like
did exhaust
using
every option. Like,
magic. Yeah, he didn't try that.
the only other option was like him saving the MIT.
He should be able to say he
woman,
tried,
which, like,
at
happened
least.
after.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess
This
so.
is a respectful
I
thing
don't know.
if you're going to conjure magic. And
That was like an attempt at a joke that I thought didn't work. I'm like, yeah, he didn't get accepted. Like, that's it. Whatever.
Yeah.
That was one thing.
Should have communicated it to him beforehand, but plot wouldn't have happened, I guess. I don't know if there was a better way to do that. And then in terms of the rules for the whole memory wipe thing, like, I don't know. So Aunt May is still dead. So it's just people's memories being affected, not necessarily the outcomes of Peter Parker being Spider-Man or people knowing that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Because Aunt May, you could easily make the case that that is one of those outcomes, but that still happened. So it's just people's memories that are erased. So by that logic, I don't know. Couldn't someone just go back a couple episodes in J. Jonah Jameson's podcast and be like, oh, the one where he says Peter Parker is Spider-Man, or the video that Jake Gyllenhaal recorded and, maybe that's disappeared. I don't know. All the videos on people's phones chasing around to the school. It's like, if it's just people's memories and physical evidence hasn't been tampered with, then, the podcast, J. Jonah Jameson's podcast, that's the really obvious one, because he's flat out saying in that, like, theoretically, that would still be there, right? I don't know.
Obviously, it's magic. It got rid of everything.
Yeah, that's the beauty of magic.
It's
you
magic.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, well then fucking Aunt May should be alive. Why not? Do whatever you want then.
Yeah, Aunt May's dead, so she doesn't. She still, or I guess we don't know if she has no memory of anything. She's dead.
No, I'm just saying that her being dead is a consequence of the Peter Parker Spider-Man knowledge.
Of Peter Parker,
and so it's like, I don't know, how much of this can you undo other than people's memories?
People don't know Peter Parker. They know Spider-Man. So we know, like, everything Spider-Man is still in the universe. It's just Peter Parker, who I got the sense never really had much of an impact on anything anyway. He's just kind of like a random kid, So no one, he is forgettable. Aside from the fact that he's Spider-Man, he is a completely forgettable, like, nobody. And that was great. The only reference they needed at the end, when he got, like, the shitty apartment and everything, they needed the landlord from the old Spider-Man movies.
Yeah,
I saw some people saying that.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking. They needed the landlord guy and his like daughter, like his homely looking daughter, like
the daughter from the SpongeBob movie.
Yeah, I was about to say.
That's exactly what they needed at the end. That would have been like a perfect way to wrap up like everything.
Yeah, throw in more. Do more, but this is exactly what I want to see some deleted scenes.
It needed more, yeah.
Who knows? I mean,
there's
so many more
references.
opportunities where they could have, but at the same time, how many more could they have fit in there before maybe we would have felt like, it's a bit too long?
There were probably tons I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Chemistry worked really well with all the characters. You can tell that they really loved the characters, or, that they actually cared about.
Yeah. Sure.
What they were doing in the story and how things were resolved.
I like Spider-Man's friends.
Yeah, just imagine if M. Night cared about the characters in the film Glass, Imagine if we got this same resolution from, like, the Unbreakable characters, but no. Even as the person that created the original film, he shat on them and gave them the most unceremonious possible outcome. Like,
he was deconstructing comic books, Adam. You just missed the nuance.
Now I like it. Thanks.
Yeah, Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis in Glass. Yeah, really get him to care. Get Bruce Willis to care about anything.
Yeah, true.
Get any part. Yeah, it's all about the actors, the cast. Yeah, Willem Dafoe, he fucking cares. He cares about this part, or at least you get the sense he does, and it adds a lot.
He's just a great character actor. Just adds to anything he's put in. You can be in Aquaman and The Lighthouse, He's like, he's got range.
Sure, he's very versatile. He's in a lot of stuff. And yeah, this is a cool movie. The effects were good for the most part. Like, I didn't have much of an issue with, like, the CGI. It's obviously very CGI heavy. But I think with this tone of, like, a goofy Spider-Man film, like, I don't know, it didn't bother me necessarily. It is so, like, pulpy and light and just references and it knows exactly what it is, and it like removes any pretext, or like it's made for you. If you're a Spider-Man fan, you will like it. You're gonna like it.
It's just a good comic book movie. I don't know what else I would want from, like, a Spider-Man movie with this premise.
Yeah, really. Every villain is awesome. It's because you know them from other movies they've been developed already, or because they sucked in other movies and they made them better. They improved on every element. They made Andrew Garfield better. They made Jamie Foxx a better character. They gave resolution to characters that didn't really have much of a resolution. Like, every character they introduced in this movie, like Zendaya, like, I thought she was fine. Ned, that resolution with his friends, like, it all comes back to, like, the emotional core of the story and to, like, those original characters. And, like, that's where you got, like, the big punch, like the dramatic punch at the end of the film from, like, Happy and from Zendaya and Ned. Like, it wasn't from, like, the references in the other movies. It wasn't from, like, Tobey Maguire. Like, It was all there, but it wasn't a replacement for like the story. The story is still there, and you still get like an arc of a character, like Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Focused.
Yeah, he comes a long way from the original. When you saw him in Civil War, he feels like much less of a kid now and more like Spider-Man, and it's awesome. It's a great transformation. And I think it's done really well, and you care because it's been done over like 5 movies or whatever, not just one movie. And yeah, it has that impact. It wants to. I think it really does. The audience were loving it. They were clapping like every 5 minutes and crying, and you know, girls were crying at Andrew Garfield saying like he wished he could rescue Gwen, and like, you know, the audience was just like so on board with this.
The same corner of my theater was gasping at every time a character breathed, basically.
Yeah, when Toby came out. Yeah,
see, it was really interesting
so
for
over
me.
the top.
Yeah, British audiences they like being quiet, like in movies, but this was one where, weirdly enough, when Andrew Garfield came on, that got the biggest reaction from my theater.
Isn't he British?
Yeah, he's British, but so is Tom Holland, right?
Oh.
True. There was a big reaction for Andrew Garfield in my movie too.
British,
I wasn't sure how people would react to Andrew Garfield, but yeah, people really liked him, and they were
people
crying.
were losing their mind.
Yeah, in some ways they had more of a stronger reaction to him than like to Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah, that was my experience, which was interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, obviously Toby is, you know, OP. He's my favorite. He's my favorite.
Toby OP.
So we have. I feel like we could go on, but maybe we can go on to another movie. It's Spider-Man. I fucking love this.
Let's do it. I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10. It could change up or down. I don't know. A lot of it was a good movie. I'll watch it again. I'm interested to see some deleted scenes. It was stupid, but it was fun.
Yeah, I'm in a similar place. Stupid, fun comic book. I just think Spider-Man is such a fun character. He just fits in just cinema so well, his powers and everything, and bringing in all those like villains you want to see, and yeah, the fan service stuff just doesn't bug me, even though it's such a pet peeve of mine with like all these reference movies, but they make it work, and yeah, it might go up.
This is like the one that works. This is the one that's like the exception. I really love this movie, and I'm going on and praising it. What you're saying is right. It's references. It's not like this. It's not a deep art film that made me rethink cinema or anything. It's a commercial film, and it's about as good, I think, as you could do with one of those kinds of movies, because it just gives the audience everything they want, everything without any pretentiousness or anything. It's just like fun.
Except Bully Maguire.
Everything you want.
Didn't give us that.
No one wanted Bully Maguire.
I wanted Bully Maguire.
I did not want.
I'm
Bully
the audience.
I didn't want emo Peter in this movie. I'm glad they didn't even make reference to him. They make a reference to that in Spider-Verse. If you get a kick out of that, they do reference in that movie. I would. Objectively, probably more like a 7, or like, if we're like looking at like the grand scheme of like filmmaking history, like maybe like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. But for me personally, as like a fan of Spider-Man, it's more like a 4 out of 5, because it really does deliver on like everything you want. So if you're a fan of this stuff, it's a 4 out of 5. I think you could still get a kick out of it. It's so well made, and Tom Holland's still good, and it still has like an emotional core and a story that works on its own, and it doesn't just rely on references. Like it's not in substitute of a story or character. It's it's actually adding to it. Yeah, like if Ready Player One, it continued the story of Iron Giant, then I would have liked the movie. Right. But that's not what they did. They just threw him in there in the background. Or like Space Jam 2, you have like the Clockwork Orange people in the background just there. Like that's not what this movie does. No one's just there. They're there for a reason, and even if it's silly, they try to write something for them to do to make it feel like at least this character's like serving a function in the story. Like maybe some of these characters aren't like beloved as others, like the Lizard or Sandman, so they're kind of like thrown kind of under the bus compared to some of the others.
In the van.
That would be like a criticism.
Thrown in the
van. Literally, thrown under the van. It would have been better maybe if Lizard just wasn't in it, and they kind of focused more on Sandman or like kind of cut the Sandman out and focused more on Lizard. there might have been like a little bit lacking there. But that was it for me in terms of like genuine criticism. Obviously, it's full of references and it's made by Disney. Like, that's not. You know what it is. You know what it is going into it. That's not even like a review. Like I said, that's not a review of the movie. It's fun. It's, you know, if it was fucking cynical garbage, then yeah, we would be shitting on Disney. But it's not really what it is. It feels like people cared about this movie, and it feels like I got the sense like when the actors were all like recording their scenes, they were having a great time. Because like, how can you not? I mean, sure. It's all this Spider-Man together. Yeah, so definitely the fun kind of like radiates off the screen. You can't like not enjoy it to some extent.
I wonder what Toby's paycheck was.
Massive.
Oh man, he likes poker too, so probably a large amount.
That's funny.
He does like poker.
Yeah, apparently he's like a big poker fan, like just in real life.
Cool.
Just using that Spider-Man money.
No Way Home.
We did it.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Great. That was fantastic. Marvel does it again.
We saw a better superhero movie.
Oh, let's talk about
one of the best.
Yeah, I recommended a movie. Yeah, we can talk about that. I saw like House of Gucci and West Side Story, but maybe we'll save that for another time because you guys
we'll see because we're already over.
Yeah, I
an
haven't seen either.
Yeah, we talk about Spider-Man a lot. I knew we would. Yeah. I mean, I really enjoyed Spider-Man. So yeah, I wanted to recommend another superhero thing. We didn't have much time to record the podcast either. And yeah, like I love schlock. I love fucking garbage.
Yeah, same.
So 1984, they made the film Supergirl.
Literally
which is
1984.
My recommendation. Yeah, which it's Orwellian.
Yeah, it's Orwellian.
So Supergirl, 1984. The spoilers for Supergirl.
Oh no.
The story follows.
Spoilers.
The story follows Kara Zor-El, also known as Supergirl, as she is like, I guess, hanging out on like this kind of it's inner space. It's like Krypton blew up and they're kind of hidden out on this planet or this like area of space called inner space.
Yeah, it's protected by plastic sheets.
It's protected by plastic sheets. And Mia Farrow's there and Peter O'Toole as a guy named Zoltar. And they're all hanging out. Supergirl's kind of like, I guess, kitty. Like, she's kind of like ignorant, doesn't know better. And they give her like this like rotating like dildo thing to like to like.
Oh, that one thing.
It's like it looks like a dildo. And she's like, she waves it at this bug and it flies out of the spaceship for no reason, and it like sucks out this ball that's like
breached the plastic
really
sheeting.
Important. This really important magic fushigi ball that flies into space and lands on Earth randomly.
It spins
and it lands in Faye Dunaway's soup on Earth.
They were having a picnic outside with this dead tiger.
That's right.
Big rug.
And so Supergirl has to, she doesn't have to. She volunteers to go into outer space and go to Earth and get this magical ball back and bring it back to Krypton, or the fake inner space Krypton that they establish, because it's not Krypton. Krypton blew up. And yeah, the movie, it's about as good as my plot description so far. I mean, I could keep going from there. She goes in a spaceship, and it's like 2001: A Space Odyssey, except it's fucking like a really
looks like
bad
shit.
version of it.
It's made 20 years after, and it looks a lot worse.
I know.
20 years is a long time.
By that.
Well, yes, the special effects of this movie are like some of the worst ever. I compare it to the original Superman. The flying sequences in that movie are still really good. And like the flying sequences in this movie look absolutely atrocious. Just so bad.
Yeah, you see the wire sometimes when she's in the air.
Oh yeah, when she flies out of like the water or the lake for the first time, you see like it looks terrible. Adam, I wanted to ask you about the Supergirl theme song because you like talking about music.
Christ, yeah.
What'd you think of this theme song? I really didn't like the theme song. Like this point, I like certain like variations of it, but in terms of like the opening credits of this film, there's this really like annoying noise that keeps going.
Yeah, it's
during the theme
blast
song.
off sound or whatever. Like
dun, 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 like that's what it sounds like. It's really weird.
Hate that so much. It was incredibly irritating. It was destroying the whole song, because otherwise the song itself isn't like that bad. it's nice seeing a film from the 80s where it's like, oh, wow, there's an entire orchestral arrangement. You know, you don't get that a lot.
Yeah, it's Jerry
anymore.
Goldsmith. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
That was just like the standard at the time to have like, oh, the actual conductor and full orchestra, blah, blah, blah. You know, people actually wrote pretty solid music. But then, they added in that sound effect and they have it hitting like every single measure just on the beat. It's just like, shut up.
But it's like, I don't understand what they're trying to say. It's like a mechanical kind of thrusting noise. It's really odd to associate with this character as Supergirl. I don't know what they're thinking with that.
The noise she makes when she takes off or something. Because she's flying.
Some really bad sound effects, actually. Really goofy ass sound effects.
Yeah, that was... I can't believe they did that to the soundtrack. That was horrendous.
Yeah, that kind of just ruins it.
Yeah, what the fuck were they thinking?
I don't know if you sat through the credits, but it's like, it just keeps going.
I know.
That song just on repeat. It's like, oh my god.
It's like a Bela Tarr film.
Yes. So,
and it's a good it's a good composer too. It's the guy who composed like the Star Trek films. Like,
he did like Alien.
It's like, he did Alien,
Chinatown.
Right. Like,
They probably added in that sound effect after he was done with it. They probably did that without his permission.
Just the opening credits of this movie were quite, like, you could tell they put a lot of money into them.
Yeah.
It just didn't really come together. This movie's horrible, and it's really silly and bad, and the acting is bad, and it's really dated, and compared to Superman, it's like not even close to the same like level of quality.
Faye Dunaway's a witch?
Yes. Faye Dunaway plays Selena, the witch.
And she has like a roommate or something?
Oh yeah, her sidekick, who was also
was that
really just
like
annoying.
what's she there for?
And like their big evil plan is to seduce a
man,
a random guy,
some 80s punk,
some
like
like
a tree
janitor
surgeon or something. Just like a random guy just hanging about with his shirt off.
You're like, ew.
There's literally nothing special about him. Like,
they just creeped on him one day, and we're like, ew, I want that. But her plan was to take over the world, and then she like gets sidetracked with this other thing where she's like, I want him to love me. Right? But like they were explaining the love potion thing earlier, it was in the same conversation as her taking over the world. She's like doing those tarot cards things. She's like, if I want control over everyone, then I will have to make them, and then she puts down a card. Oh, I'll make them love me, as if she would have said hate if she drew the other card. Like, oh yeah, I'll make everyone hate me. That'll make me I'll take over the world that way. But then she just finds one guy and is like, oh, I'll make him fall in love with me, and as per cheesy love potion rules, they pass out, and the first person they see when they wake up is who they're gonna fall in love with. They'll get imprinted on, just like Jacob and the baby in Twilight. Spoilers. And so instead of just tying him up or something, like he was unconscious, he was there. They just leave the room, and he slowly gets up and just wanders around the city drugged up, not looking at anyone apparently, but looking down. And the entire action sequence takes place. Superwoman saves him, and then she's the first person that he sees. And they're just watching this entire thing through like a crystal ball or some vision or some shit. It's just like, you could have just not let him leave. Like, you already drugged him and he was unconscious. Just like handcuff him or something, like tie him to something. He wouldn't even care once he wakes up because he would love you. That's the rules that you've established. Also, your hideout's a fucking like amusement park scary house. What?
Yeah, what is it? Because even that character, he comments, he's like, is this a house? Like in the movie, they're like, what is like happening? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
There's like a weird scene later in the movie where Lois Lane's sister, and that's like a whole thing. They're just like plugging in these like side references.
That was funny.
There's that teacher character who's like friends with the witches or something, or has like a relationship with one of them. Like, I don't know what that was about, but the Lois Lane's sister's like, yeah, I think he's my math teacher. I think. She says, I think, like she doesn't even know.
Yeah.
She's not even
Linda Lane or whatever. Lucy Lane.
No,
Linda Lee, Lucy Lane. Wow, whoa, all the L's. Haha, whoa.
I'll get into Kara, because like her reasoning for being named Linda Lee is like the dumbest thing like you could fucking possibly imagine. She like looks at a picture of like General Lee, like in the principal's
Robert
office.
E. Lee.
What's your name? My name's Linda Lee. Like,
That was
why
funny.
you like a Confederate general? Like, what the fuck? Like,
You know
why
why.
was that in the movie? And yeah, the alliteration, Linda Lee, and then the other
that was
girl's
annoying.
Lucy Lane.
As if that's
like,
funny.
Oh my god, the
As if that's a
writing
joke.
is so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
Why
bad.
does she
yeah.
come out of the water when she flies?
We kind of went forward a little.
Yeah, let's go
we gotta
back.
Go back.
Why did she come out of the water? She came out of like a pond when she flew
Yeah, that
through
was
space
weird,
and then
too.
came through water, and then she spawned her Supergirl clothes. The other clothes she spawned was like she was creeping on some children at a baseball game, and then decided to go behind a tree, and she's like, "I'm a brunette now." But it's like, so that was inspired by something. But before that point, it's like, oh well, she's just she's like, oh, I want like the Superman costume, but gendered in. I want a skirt. It's like, does she have a reference for that? Like, I haven't seen the other Superman movies. I haven't seen the Christopher Reeves things, right? So,
well, that's a power she has apparently that Christopher Reeves Superman doesn't. Is that she can just change her clothes?
oh yeah,
like,
the quick
automatically,
change power.
Like she flies out of a window and her clothes change. Like that was such a dumb shot.
As long as she's being blocked by something for a second.
Yeah, the pipe one was my favorite, where she flies down and just goes into the pipe and comes out the other side in a different outfit.
Oh my
So
god,
dumb.
that was really funny. Yeah, it's like a comedy moment. Like it's trying to make you laugh.
Unintentional.
Unintentional. But like the original Superman, of course, he just changes his clothes. They're just fucking clothes. Like he just gets out of them. He's like, oh, I need to be Superman and let me take my clothes off. Like that's like, I don't know why they just didn't do that in this. Yeah, a lot of dumbness.
Because it's a girl superhero, so she needs to have fashion powers. And the girl villain needs to be obsessed with winning over a man. Like, it's like
very
okay.
dated.
Interesting character motivations.
There's an especially dated scene where Supergirl's like almost like sexually assaulted.
Yeah,
she's like
weird
she
scene.
lands in like this random town. And these two truckers
rapists.
come out and they're like, "Oh yeah, you look pretty." Like they try to like take it off.
Oh my
her.
god!
Like, one guy like touching her butt like under her dress,
and he was so cocky, even though she's clearly magic. Like, she already knocked out his other friend and then lasered his knife, and he's like, I'll get you.
I guess they're drunk, but
he's on
like,
PCP,
what was the point of that scene even? Like, the first interaction Kara's going to have with humanity, she's almost going to get, like, assaulted by two guys. Like, this is so fucking dumb.
What's
and it's,
crazy
like, not even
about that?
necessary
really
for this
dark.
film.
It's like Robocop.
It's not necessary.
The craziest part about that for me was the fact that the guy was wearing an A&W shirt, and based on how much other A&W product placement there was in the film, it's like, oh, that was just a product placement. And apparently A&W was just like, oh yeah, a rapist wearing the shirt, that's fine. Like, they didn't have as much of thought over like what types of characters might be associated with your brand. No, just the brands in the movie, and that's fine. Tons of A&W,
the product
tons
placement.
of Tylenol. Tylenol was a big one.
The Popeyes. Let's go to Popeyes.
Yeah.
We're going to have tons of fun at Popeyes. We're going to eat
So
a
much
Popeyes.
product placement.
Supergirl's like flying out of Popeyes. You see the fucking sign behind her. Like, oh my god, it's fucking terrible. It's like the worst. It's the worst product placement I think I've ever seen. Like,
they ordered
so
items.
bad, so obvious. Oh yeah,
film.
Yeah, Supergirl. We're gonna go to Popeyes later. Like that line. It was fucking terrible.
One of you guys has to explain to me the whole like squirt thing.
Squirt.
later in the movie, they go to like the Phantom Zone, and the guy from the beginning is there, and he keeps saying squirt, and then like keeps squirting this weird like juice in his mouth, and like she has some, and this bit like, what the fuck? Why was that like mentioned so many times? It's like mentioned like 3 or 4 times.
I have no idea.
Have a squirt instead.
It's like a drug. Like he's so miserable being in the Phantom Zone, he just like gets high all the time. He's like squirts that shit into his mouth.
Yeah, I have
it's
no.
hilarious.
I could not tell
It
you.
makes
I have
no
Nothing's
sense.
ever explained. There's like no rules to any of it.
Right.
Like
they don't explain
it's
it.
just
It's
nonsense.
like, yeah, you're right. He's like, squirt.
I was a bit checked out during the Phantom Zone sequence.
The Phantom Zone sequence is so terrible because they completely redefine like what the Phantom Zone is. You know, like when Kara gets first teleported into the Phantom Zone, she's like in that square thing or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the Phantom Zone. That's what the Phantom Zone is. It
you're
doesn't.
turned into
That's
a
not the
2D
thing that takes
image.
you. But that's fucking scary. Like you don't want to be stuck in there for all eternity. But the Phantom Zone isn't like this random planet. The way the logic of this movie, the Phantom Zone is like this other place, and the square thing brings you there. Like that's not cool at all. That like
And you can
ruins
escape
the
it through
Phantom
like a
Zone.
whirlwind. Super weird.
Yeah, if you have Zoltar with you, you can escape it. Like and that sacrifice, it's like oh my god.
Yeah.
Maybe we're going a little too far.
And then she comes back,
everything
and
about the
like
film is
that's
bad.
that's basically just how she returns. And Faye Dunaway, like just do another spell. I don't know. Like, just send her
Yeah.
back again. Like, it seemed you didn't really have to do anything to get her there. You just kind of said some words and then she did it. So do it again.
Mhm.
Just keep doing it. I don't know.
How does like the main MacGuffin, that energy providing thing, even enhance the witch's powers?
Yeah, we don't really
confused by-
see it used, do we? Like,
Yeah.
not really.
They're just
She's already
because they
magic,
say they're
right?
linked, or were they trying to go for like she was like a nothing, like a bad witch, and then somehow was like growing with power? Like it was really confusing the way it's told. It's
Yeah.
She was an aesthetic witch, and then now she has powers. She was just doing it
Mhm.
for the clothing.
she just lives in a haunted house.
Yeah.
She was just doing it for the
She
love
lives
of
in
a
a
man.
dump.
She just loved a random guy who she didn't even know.
Yeah,
It's just like this random dude.
this is problematic.
It's just terrible writing. It's like so dated, and like you said, the most far-fetched thing about that scene afterward, like once the guy escapes and it's him wandering around the town, it would be the first person he sees he would fall in love with. Wouldn't that just be some random guy? Like,
No,
on
he
the
was looking
street?
at his
He just
feet.
happens to look at. Yeah, he's looking at his feet the whole time.
He never
It just
looked
so
at
happened.
anyone.
He was kind of drowsy, I guess. He was like, oh. Right, and then she like kind of possesses this kind
Oh my
of, I guess, a
God.
crane or something.
That was such a funny moment when they're at Popeyes and they see him wandering around. Supergirl's like,
Popeyes.
"Shouldn't we help him?" And then literally, it takes
It's like, yeah,
no
you're
convincing
Supergirl. Why don't you help
whatsoever.
him?
No
Why are you
convincing
asking
whatsoever.
everyone?
Well, she said that, and the guy's just like, nah, he's a drug addict or something, and she's like, okay, and they go inside Popeyes. It took no convincing for this main character to be like, oh, you're right, I'm not gonna help him.
Yeah, she's Supergirl. She doesn't
Yeah.
do
What the
anything
fuck?
to like save anyone.
Yeah, she needed his permission.
Yeah, she's got like no personality.
Yeah.
I thought where they were gonna go with the whole construction vehicle, I'm not sure what it was called. I thought where they were gonna go with that was with Supergirl's friend showing up in it and then getting knocked out. I thought she was gonna get blamed for the crime. I thought they were gonna be like, you terrorized the city in this tractor or whatever it was.
Right. No, she just tries to save it and gets knocked out.
She gets knocked out, and while she's unconscious, you can see her hand has a firm grip on the rail. On the bar. Yeah, that was silly. That was like an action set piece.
Well, yeah,
That's like
it's
what
an
they
action
did.
set piece, except there's nothing happening. Like there's no fighting or she's
There's
just
no real
stopping a
stakes.
random crane accident. That's like so lame. Yeah, there's no real stakes. There's no
Yeah.
you don't get to see like
Oh
Supergirl
my God.
fight like a great villain. The
Yeah.
most you get to see her is like getting squished around by like this terrible effect, like toward the end, like where that monster fight.
Yeah, it looked like
the monster
someone with
grabs
like
her.
a PNG in Photoshop just like moving around.
Yeah, they're like stretching it. Yeah, it looks.
We're going to change your
horrendous. Yeah.
aspect ratio.
Yeah, like the big puppet thing, kind of like Dead Alive.
Yeah,
A bit like that thing. Nowhere near as good, obviously.
When the male lead, I guess, when he
Mhm.
gets possessed by the love potion and he sees her, and he starts talking really differently, and it's so cringe. He's like all of a sudden saying
Oh,
like
it's hilarious.
Shakespearean shit. I'm like, please,
Mhm.
God,
Yeah.
no. It was so embarrassing and uncomfortable. I'm like,
He's like trying to be poetic.
Yeah. this means you're in
Romantic.
love. Like, okay.
But the fact it works on her is weird.
Once that I shall die the happy fool, 'tis but a mistake, my love. Go fuck yourself. Yeah, and like she has no agency whatsoever. She's like, yeah, I guess he's
No.
I guess I'm supposed to like the hunk.
yeah. Supergirl's character is so oblivious in this movie.
She is really ditzy. I don't know,
Yeah.
aloof.
And they write her to be that way. She's not heroic. Yeah, like, she just hangs out.
Yeah.
She spends so much time just like messing around, like hanging out with her friends in the school she just met. Like, aren't you here on a mission? Like, shouldn't
Yeah,
you be
why
trying
did she
find
go to
this ball?
school? Like why the fuck are
Why
you
is she going to class?
She
and,
was
like, answering
bored and she
questions?
decided to go to college.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
don't
they
know
have
why.
school on Krypton too. They were talking about school on Krypton in the movie. Like, Zoltar was like, "Oh, you're doing your studies, right, Supergirl?" Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, what the
And the
fuck?
whole like bullying stuff going on in school with like the girl like trying to burn their skin off in the shower and stuff. It's like, what?
Oh yeah.
Quite escalation.
Yeah, the
of, like-
shower scene. Oh my god, that was fucking terrible. That was terrible.
That was really
Why
funny.
did they need to be in a shower scene at all? Ugh. This movie made me laugh more than I think any other movie like we've talked about on this podcast.
Great.
Just every single element of this movie is just so horrendous.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cliche. It's every bad superhero movie cliche you could ask for.
So they went behind and made it so that they were going to scald them with hot water. And then Supergirl focused her laser behind the wall, went through the wall and ruined the plumbing. And so the bullies get hit with the water. I guess it's not scalding for them because that would have been cool. Too cool for the movie. But then it's just like, what? Your showers are still working fine. Also, when she was in the shower, her hair was like completely dry. I don't know why they just like get her hair. Like they had to film some shit later in the day. They're like, no, it would take too long to dry her hair after that. So they just like, don't stand underneath the shower. You can stand next to it. Your hair will be dry throughout the scene. Okay.
Yeah, her like laser eyes thing was super confusing because the first time it's shown, she kind of makes a flower grow, but also it can do that as well.
Because she's the girl superhero. She has
and...
to love nature or something.
What were they thinking with this? Like they already had the Superman thing going.
Yeah, who's this for?
What does adding this character?
Well, this is like toward the point. This is like right before Superman 4, Quest for Peace, which is like notoriously like the worst one, right? So this is like when Superman was kind of starting to die out a bit. Like it was kind of losing steam. This series.
And they thought this would revitalize it. I
guess so. Or I don't know what they were thinking, but
this is it.
Bad idea.
Well, it's the first like woman superhero
Supergirl's
movie.
superpowers is she can make butterflies. that's her superpower. She can make butterflies. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, at first it looked kind of like a dragonfly, and then it became like a mosquito or something. And then, just smashed out the plastic. Man, things just happen in this movie.
I like how she had her ear close to the wall and you heard the sound effect and it was like, oh, she has super hearing. And then it showed the dotted line visual. It's like, oh. Like, just in case you couldn't tell that she's using her super hearing right now with all the other clues we've given. We're basically just writing it as if it's like a sports play. Like, oh, you just put an arrow there, you know? My God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that MacGuffin power source was just really terrible and not established well. The name of it's like ridiculous.
They seemed like really proud of that effect or something. They kept showing
it's spinning.
It off.
How do they do that?
Look, it's
how does it spinning? How do they do it?
It needed to be bigger. It needed to have more of an effect to it. Like it was just like this little fushigi ball, like you could hold in your hand. Like it's not. It looked like
power
it was
of the sun in the palm of your hand. Yeah, that's what it needed to be.
It fell in the woman's soup. Like it was so dumb.
And she immediately knew it was like what it was. She was like, yes, this is exactly what I need to take over the world.
And when Supergirl lands on Earth, like that whole sequence is so silly. Like when she's flying around and she picks up a rock and she's like, wow, a rock. like
she's like, yeah, really staring at it. So, whoa.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. I don't know why Supergirl, and I guess probably also Superman, but I haven't seen those, but I don't know why she insists on having her arms in what look like very uncomfortable positions. Like, you can just relax them. Like, your arms aren't doing the flying, are they? Like, she was like kind of flapping them like wings. It's like, well, you're not getting lift that way. You're just doing this because you're bored, right? Like, just leave them dangling. You know, you might as well just relax.
Yeah, they tried to make it look more like a dance or something. I don't know if they're trying to make it more feminine. It did not work. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really didn't need to go to school. I don't know why that was even in there. The only human school. She went to Krypton school, like I said before. There's one funny line when Zoltar asks her, like, did they not teach you 6-dimensional geometry at school?
Oh, yeah.
Like, at the beginning. Like, oh my God, that's so bad.
I love that the professor thinks she must have been cheating because she knew the correct answer. This is like fucking witch trials all over again. How did you know the correct answer? You must have been snooping through my notes.
Attention to herself. Yeah, she didn't need to answer that, you know?
Yeah,
and then they come up with like this excuse. Yeah. I guess the only reason for her to like go to school is because she needed a place to like sleep. Like, because they show her like in the beginning, she like sleeps in the woods. Like she just sleeps in the woods, and she wakes up next to like a bunny rabbit. And she's like, "Oh, look at the bunny rabbit!" I'm like, "Oh my God!" So like they were trying to establish like she needs like to dorm somewhere so she can have a place to sleep, and so like she has to attend her studies, otherwise they'll kick her out. But you know, it was so like it didn't really make sense. It didn't really like she could have just gone there, got the MacGuffin, and then left. Like, I don't know why she needed to sleep. Like, it needed somewhere to stay and like to make
writing herself
friends.
a reference letter so she can get into the school and stuff. So why are you going to these lengths? What's the reasoning?
No reason. It's just an excuse to have a story and to meet Linda
and
Lane.
put in a bunch of references to the Donner movies.
Boys are there. Actually, it was all girls, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was all girls. They got the poster for Superman in the room. They're like, oh, there he is. Remember him?
Oh yeah.
Remember?
They keep saying like, "You're Clark Kent's cousin. You're Clark Kent's cousin." Whoa.
As if that's like, oh, that's cool.
Hell yeah.
You're Superman's cousin. Nice. Sick.
Yeah, you're some random reporter's cousin. Cool.
You know what I wanted to know the whole time?
What?
Is why the fuck the villains wanted to take over the world anyway? Like, I didn't understand their motivations. Like, a lot of villains, especially nowadays, like, you give them a motivation, it's like, oh, they're, for this end or because they were bullied or something. But I didn't know anything about these villains. It was just like her and Nigel, and then Nigel doesn't show up for like most of the movie until she's like, I'm getting frustrated and I can't do anything by myself. I need your help. Like, her and her roommate couldn't figure this shit out.
There's a point where she's just like, she straight up says like, I'm ready for world domination now.
Yeah, I'm like,
that's it.
Why though?
It's like, oh, okay, yeah, why? What do you mean? Like,
what's your driving
like
force?
5 minutes ago, you were talking about like trying to make enough money so you could pay bills for like water and stuff.
Yeah.
Now you want to take over the whole world?
When they were in at the picnic scene, like, they were talking about some weird shit. She was like, how do you turn invisible? He's like, well, you take a bean and put it in a dead man's mouth or something. Like, what was that about? Like, what the fuck was going on before the MacGuffin showed up? I don't know what the fuck they were talking about.
Yeah.
It was so confusing.
They just never explain it. There's a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah.
The monster
There's
was
just
like,
no rules to any of
invisible.
it.
Yeah, that was
invisible
weird.
monster toward the end. That was really lame. Like,
Smashes her into an A&W vending machine.
Yeah, the product placement was so bad in this movie.
Yeah.
The Popeyes, I think, is the most egregious thing. But yeah, like the A&W, like on the rapist guy.
I just like
the film has no grasp of tone.
all of it is obnoxious. All of it is super obnoxious. Like the big Tylenol billboard, but then earlier when she's talking to like the dean or whatever, you can see on his desk it's like cheated out perfectly to the camera so you can see the label, the bottle of Tylenol, just sitting on in the middle of his desk. Like, I was just using this. I always have headaches or something. Like, fuck off. The Frosted Flakes and the Cheer detergent and like fucking everything. Like, holy shit. Maybe this movie didn't need to make money because it made money before they started filming, you know?
Although it was a huge flop, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It only made like 14 million on a 34 odd million budget at the time.
Yeah, it's terrible. Mm-hmm. It does seem kind of quaint now compared to the superhero budgets today. That movie would cost probably $250 million and it would make at least $500 million. You know, it's much more quaint.
Did you like how epic the fight scene was at the carnival when the boyfriend was like, oh no, bumper cars?
Like, oh yeah, that was great.
Like, it's so scary. It's like, oh no, what's he gonna do? I don't know, just leave the area, like just walk to the left a bit and then they can't get you.
Yeah. Why did she fly away with the bumper car? She could have just taken it.
She smashed through the roof too. It knocked him out.
Yeah.
I'm like, you should be dead.
It's so corny.
And then when he wakes
like
up,
the coconut thing too.
Yeah, the coconut thing. I was like, what the? You should be dead. You've died. And then she just starts feeding
like
him
like
while he's unconscious. She's like sticking her fingers in his mouth with the coconut juice. I was like, what the fuck is going on? That was so funny. Oh,
yeah,
they're dynamic. Their scenes together are just all so nonsense.
Yeah, when they attempt jokes, it really stands out. Like my favorite line was when Lois Lane's like sister or whatever calls someone a dingleberry, and then Supergirl says, "What's a dingleberry?" There's loads of weird shit like that. Twerpet
she was supposed to be
out,
like a comedic relief character. Mm-hmm.
Well, they kind of they try to like the pacing of it is edited to kind of deliver jokes, but you don't realize it was supposed to be a joke until it's kind of passed for a few seconds. You're like, oh shit, that was supposed to be a joke. Oh damn,
right.
Like what was the one about the Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff, and it's like, oh my god, what is the tone is all over the place. It's so weird. One second you got the like rapist guys and the next second you're doing like dingleberry jokes, and it's just so fucking bizarre.
Oh, right. And, this movie has no grasp of the tone. It's like, Supergirl's supposed to be silly, but they don't get it right. It just comes across dumb. And Like that's something this new Spider-Man film we were talking about nails, or the original Superman film. Like it isn't about being like realistic or dark or whatever, but you need to have like a tone, and it's, you know, you need to stay consistent within it and stay, you know, being cheesy is fine as long as it's not obnoxious.
It ain't easy being cheesy.
It goes too far into the obnoxious territory.
Your main character needs some kind of flaw as well. Like, she's so uninteresting. Like, what is the...
Yeah,
like,
what's
Superman
her
is
character?
way more of a hook. Like, Superman, he's, like, raised on Earth. He has his parents. He has his relationship with Lois Lane. It all comes together way more naturally, and they're kind of stakes. Whereas here, the, like, love potion guy, it's, like, awkward and creepy, and... Yeah, her going to school randomly, because she didn't like crash land as a baby, so there's no excuse for her to naturally kind of act like a human. So,
She was born.
Like, oh, I'm a fish out of water.
Right. They were forcing her to like into this human conflict that didn't really match. It didn't connect with the story that was going on. You know, she was just there to get the ball and go back to Krypton.
Yeah,
and I guess she's just. I think maybe she discovered how cool Earth was, and that's why she stayed for a while. But they never clearly like explain that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like she has friends. She really just likes going to Popeyes with her friends. Like that's how
she loves Popeyes
so
much that she wanted to save the world.
That was so funny. Like all these like girls, like, yeah, we're going to Popeyes later.
Like one of them ordered a side of tomato. I think I was like, what? Just like a piece of tomato?
Really?
Is that what she?
I missed that.
I didn't rewind it, but that's what we heard. Can I get a side of tomato? I swear we heard
fast
something
food.
Like
it's not like, you know, it's not like a place you go out to for fun. Like you just go for fast food.
You don't know the 80s.
Maybe it was different.
There was nothing to do.
Yeah, maybe it was
you just went to the food place and you liked it.
People were far more, they were just consumers.
Yeah.
What about how like Supergirl beats the big bad guy by just like flying around there in a circle? Really
oh yeah,
fast,
and she
just,
didn't
like,
react
hitting
for the
her
longest
away.
time too.
Yeah. That looked particularly bad.
That was dumb.
It just turns into like a little dot that starts spinning around her.
I'm a mosquito.
Yeah. Incredibly over the top performances, like all around. Peter O'Toole, like as Zoltar is bad, and Faye Dunaway, I thought as Selena was just like really bad in this movie, really over the top, and her screaming and all of that. It did not work.
Yeah, just chewing the scenery hardcore.
Yeah, but not in a good way. Like
No.
It just wasn't.
She clearly didn't give
connecting.
a fuck. Like I was reading some of like trivia and stuff.
Clearly.
Apparently, she pissed off. I think it was Peter Cook, who was like complaining that she like would make demands all the time, like right before they were starting to shoot, and like would show up late all the time, and that really comes across in her performance too. It's like just terrible.
Who's her roommate? Like, why is she there?
That character was really terrible. Just so pointless. Yeah.
So much of the
just a
fucking movie
Lois
was
Lane
just
reference.
those two in that room, though. Like, it kept cutting back. Not only did it keep cutting back, but it stayed there for so long. I feel like half the movie was just those two being like, I can't do this properly. I'm so mad.
You need to sex the guy.
Yeah.
That's all the friends.
I want
like,
him
you need
to
find the
love
guy
me.
and sex him. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess she's mostly there just for references, because Lucy Lane is like dating Jimmy Olsen, who's like a cameo from the like original Superman movies. It's like a one crossover character who actually showed
I was
up.
talking about the villain's roommate.
Oh shit. Oh,
Yeah.
her. Yeah, I have no idea why she was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
pointless,
clue.
yeah.
Like, why
I guess
was she
humor.
there?
She was supposed to be funny.
Yeah, like, are
Because
they
yeah,
dating?
she was one of the joke.
I think she was supposed to be like another comedic relief character. Like,
yeah.
Like Lois Lane's
What's
sister.
their living arrangement? Like, do they have plumbing there? Like, they're in a fun
They're,
house.
like, sisters? Who are they? They're like in a coven together. They're like witch friends.
Yeah.
I guess.
They're witch pals. You know, the witch pals. I want to bring up the we're talking about how stupid this movie is and just how terrible the writing is. There's parts of the directing where information was so improperly communicated from a visual perspective. So when they're at the amusement park and the two of them are in, I forget what they were, but it was essentially the teacup ride that just spins around. It wasn't a teacup, but it was something else. And then the witch is like, haha, I bet you wouldn't want to be spun around really fast, and spins them around. And I'm like, the entire time where that's happening, I was like, are they supposed to still be in there? Because I'm given no visual indicator that they're still in there. Like, you could have just had one perspective shot mounted to one of the teacups and just showing them going like, whoa. And then by the end of it, it's just like, oh, the dude's still in there. And then Supergirl flew away. But like, still, you would want to communicate the information that the two of them are in there, even just at the beginning. Because I wasn't sure what I was supposed to interpret. I was like, did they fly out or something? Like, why aren't you showing us the main characters here? Why don't we see them?
Yeah.
And then I guess it was just the confusion of like, oh, they wanted you not to know that Supergirl flew out. But it's like, I don't know. She could have done that halfway through or something. I don't know.
And like, you've seen her like escape situations like this the whole movie up to that point anyway. So it's like, of course she's like invincible. Of course she can escape something like that.
Yeah, like she'd be trapped because she was spinning in a teacup ride. She could also just stay in it and be fine. Like, was it going to make her pass out? Like, what the fuck?
She might be a bit dizzy and miss her punch.
Oh, no.
Or laser eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just so confusing to open your movie on this like broad science fiction. You're establishing a new universe. Then you take it to Earth and then you start exploring like magic powers and witch covers and then try and like cross over. It really clashes. It's so strange. And like her house being like a horror haunted house thing and the amusement park stuff all clashes so hard.
So she lives in like a dump. Basically, right? Like she lives at an amusement park that's just off season.
Is that what it's supposed to be?
Was it? Because that's
I
where. I
couldn't tell.
Wow, what a loser!
Right? Because it seemed no. That's literally what I thought was happening. Because right when
it is. It's like
when the
confusing.
dude wakes up, he goes through those things, and then later there's action set pieces at amusement park, which I assume is like the same place, right? So. She lives in like she's squatting right now. She's homeless and living in it. She repurposed a scary house in the amusement park is what I interpreted. But then when she's with like Nigel or whatever, they're like at this fancy party where everyone's got like fucking smoke coming out of their drinks or whatever, like liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, I figured that was like at her house as well.
Yeah, like I don't know what her financial situation is. Let's just say that. But yeah, that was a weird scene too. Is like the whole party thing where, oh my god, yeah, the directing in that scene that her and Nigel were having a conversation, and in the middle of the conversation, it cuts. And I'm like, it looked like it was a new scene later in the day with her and the hologram thing that was in front of her face. I was like, oh, what an interesting choice to just cut like that, and then this is later in the day. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and then it changed angles again. I'm like, oh, we're in the same scene in the same conversation. What the fuck?
That was bad.
That was like, just really basic visual communication that you should understand as a director, and not, theoretically the goal would be to not have people think you're in a different scene when you're still in the same conversation in a scene. That's fucked up. That's like really bad directing. That's like really poor planning. And also, that magic thing they did where they just like showed everyone at the party that girl's pussy or something. Like they had her upside down and like,
that was terrible.
Hey everybody, look at her pussy.
So
what the fuck was that?
That was fucking
Honestly,
awful. Yeah,
I don't understand.
That was really terrible.
Yeah, why is she so obsessed with spinning people around? That's like her main character trait.
It's the only effect they learned how to do for the film. Everything just spins.
But the effect didn't look good. It just looked like an actor on a rig or like an actor on like strings. Like you saw the strings and like the wire work so much in this movie. It was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
How many times you saw her for like the wire work of her flying around. And just like basic elements of filmmaking, like the tone wasn't clear. The setting sucked. Like there's no metropolis. I didn't even get the sense it was like Smallville or any set.
The entire town looked like a fake set.
It's just like some town. Yeah, it's like some shitty
It looks like
town.
they built
and, like,
the town
whole
for the movie.
Takes place here. It's like one fucking street with like a water tower.
Yeah, they might have built the town for the movie.
And a Popeyes. They built a Popeyes there.
They've got
that was like the highlight of the
best
town.
Popeyes and a lot of A&W. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It was funny. Thanks for recommending it. I mean, we needed one like this.
Yeah, it was definitely funny.
I mean, it's fucking hilarious. Yeah, I mean,
some obvious blue screen effects.
Some of the worst green screen and blue screen. Yeah, I think ever.
You can see the blue glow around her hair.
Just much worse in terms of like visual effects than like the other Superman movies, which is crazy because those came before.
I think it's funny that she's called Supergirl and not Superwoman. Like, I mean, why not just Superboy instead of Superman?
Yeah, exactly.
She's a baby.
Superboy actually exists as well.
Oh yeah.
I don't really know that much about the Superman characters. It's really not my thing, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is a Superwoman, to be honest. It's just everything at this point.
Yeah, there's a Batwoman.
He's got like a dog. There's like a dog version of Superman. Like it goes that level. Yeah, it's really.
That
dumb.
probably would have been a better movie than this.
Fucking Zack Snyder, make a No Way Home. Get all the Supermens and Supergirls and Superboys, all the Batmens and the Superdog, and then they can all fight, and then one of them will get rabies.
I don't hate the actress who plays her. Like, I think she could be okay in the part, Helen Slater. Like, she looks the part.
It's funny that her IMDb has this first for known for. Like, she's known for this film.
She is Supergirl. It's just not, it's just like the character isn't well written and the movie around her is like terrible. But, I don't think she's like the worst thing about it. I think Faye Dunaway actually does a much worse job. And like, Alex, what you were saying, like what you were saying, like about Faye Dunaway, like that she didn't want to do it. I definitely got that sense. I didn't know that before, but I got that sense that she was like just really hamming it up.
Mm-hmm.
Her screaming was like so over the top. No!
Yeah, very mustache twirling.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Not in a good way, right? Selena, like it's a character. I guess that is like a DC character.
I don't know.
Well, I was trying to find. I was curious about this too because I'd like never heard of this character before, and I think it wasn't like officially put into any other DC like comics proper until like 2014 or something, maybe 2016, like years and years after this. So I think they made it up for this movie.
And then they put it in the comic like 30 years later?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Weird. That's crazy.
Comics, man, it's something else.
Mm-hmm.
We got to preserve the integrity of the Supergirl film.
You're just out of ideas. Like, okay, take a villain from that Supergirl movie. Who cares?
Yeah, why not?
It's iconic anyway.
It's definitely iconic.
It should be iconic. I mean, if it isn't, there's parts of this movie that should be. Oh,
yeah.
It's so funny.
You alluded to that line earlier where they're like in the room talking about computers and algorithms and stuff, and they explain how she knows Lois Lane's sister explains like, oh, there was an electromagnetic field that makes you smarter for just a second. That was like an explanation. I thought that was really strange. Like, I don't know why they included that piece of dialogue. It was like, what? She could have just left. Like, it really doesn't matter that much. That really stood out to me as being like a standout weird.
Very weird. There's so many parts of the plot, and the finale of the film is like so anticlimactic. Like everything you don't want.
Yeah.
No fighting.
So where did the big monster come from? She like spawned him?
Yeah,
like,
but at first the monster was invisible.
Power of shadow appear.
Did she use the ball to do that, or does she just like what are her powers without the ball?
They kind of say early like the ball could do all kinds of things, but it has I could do this monster thing.
Yeah.
Can make
ball
this
rug
monster thing and
showing up.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Grund. Good movie. What else are we saying about it?
The only thing, the last thing I have is that I wrote down was the weird moment where she's like looking at herself in the mirror and she's like edging in to like kiss herself or something weird. Like, did I miss something with that?
No, I don't remember.
I was really confused. Do you remember that, Ralph? Or maybe I just made it up.
When was that?
This movie is so dense. There's so much going on.
It's like later in the movie. I think maybe she was in the witch's house or something. I can't remember why. Like a lot of the movies, like the whys are just a big question mark for the most part. Things just do happen. Someone in the comments can fill me in.
Yeah, I guess that was kind of weird. Yeah, just the ending, like the sacrifice of like Zoltar, like that was really just dumb. I hate when characters like the self-sacrifice cliche, but it's for no reason. Like it's not really for any reason that matters.
It's the best. That means they're noble. They're such a good person.
I guess so. Even though it was his fault, kind of, for starting the whole thing in the first place by giving Supergirl the fushigi ball and the rotating dildo thing. That's what it looks like. It was so dumb. Like that scene is fucking horrendous.
Yeah, that was like a particularly bad prop. Like it looked low quality. It looked bad.
Yeah. Even when the boyfriend is like, he's like changing personalities. He starts talking all dumb because he's in love. But at no point in the entire film does he ever have like much going on up there, Like he seems like the most unaware. He seems like he's mentally challenged throughout the entire film. When she's like she's turned into brunette version of herself, and even though he has a love potion on, so he like really loves her, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta find her." Like he doesn't know it's her. And he's so stupid. He doesn't understand anything.
Because they make an effort to show that the love like spell has been broken.
Yeah.
And then he like still loves her. And I guess that's supposed to say like,
it's true love.
It's true love.
Yeah,
then.
magic.
Yeah.
Beats magic.
But if anything, it just makes it weirder. It's like implanted memories or something.
Yeah, they've shared so much experience together, and they know so much about each other.
Yeah.
He's so loves her so much for the personality traits that she has. And yeah, I don't know, like I would argue that her having sex with him, like he can't consent. He's got the mind of like a 3-year-old. Like he doesn't know what the fuck's going on.
So,
he doesn't understand what sex is.
I would say it's not. I would say it's not consensual. If you're hypnotized, it's not consensual.
Yeah, even if he's not.
I mean, it's magic. It's not real. It's not real. So what the fuck are we even talking about?
There's some problematic elements that might be
there's like
more
the
obvious
magic
to people
element of the story made the magic element of the story made no sense. Like Selena's castle like just appeared in town. Like remember there's like this giant mountain that just appears.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? And then at the end of the movie it goes away.
Oh yeah.
Like, the Lois Lane sister character kisses like another love interest. Yeah, and like fucking just pops away. So dumb. So terrible.
Wow.
If she's like a witch, why not just set her in like the fortress to begin with? Like it's just so confusing. Why would you do that?
Yeah,
Why would you make it so complicated?
They could have like already made her a witch, and then this thing just like enhances it like a lot. But yeah, she already has a lair that's like really cool in the mountains somewhere.
Yeah,
instead she's in a shitty theme park, and she just wants to fucking die.
I don't
like that's her character. It's awful.
They rented out an off-season scary house for the film, I guess.
Yeah. The fucking amusement park.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess we don't have much else to say about it.
No.
I'm glad you got a kick out of this shit. But yeah, it's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Oh, awful. Just awful. Worth a watch though. It's funny.
Yeah,
sure.
It's interesting that it exists.
Yeah.
For sure.
Very much a product of its time. And I'm giving this one a 2 out of 10. I'm gonna go get some Popeyes.
Cool. I give it a 2 out of 10 also.
Good rating.
Yeah.
1 out of 5 star.
Which I guess is
1
the same.
star. It is a 1 star if there's it's a 1 star.
Yeah, it's a perfect 1-star movie. Just nothing about it is good, but it's funny.
It is very funny.
Long.
It's not quite like excruciatingly painful or mean-spirited. Like it's really funny. Yeah, that's why I wouldn't put it down there as like a 1/2 star like Food Fight or something. But it is terrible.
No. It's not.
It might even be like one of the worst superhero movies I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I got Catwoman.
To get that.
I got Catwoman vibes from it. Like Catwoman's more like a contemporary version of this movie. More
Why
modern.
is I'm looking at the poster on IMDb right now. The main title isn't centered like on the poster. It's like to the left. That's kind of annoying.
Oh yeah,
it's not even centered.
That doesn't look balanced, does it?
No.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Just move it over.
The posters, but, I think I read something about the original poster had the Statue of Liberty on it, and they put what she's holding in the wrong hand.
Oh.
Yeah. If you search it, that's hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
messed up.
I'm looking at like the Letterboxd Supergirl poster. It has the Statue of Liberty and the World Trade Centers in the background. I'm like, oh great. But what's this poster you're talking about?
I was the IMDb one.
I'm on the IMDb one.
Okay.
With like the ghoul in the.
Oh yeah, I see the
top.
I see the Liberty one. Yeah, that's funny. Well, she was never in New York, was she?
I don't think so.
No, she wasn't. Right, that's what I mean.
That imagery is never shown.
Why would they put the Twin Towers in the poster?
Yeah, exactly.
That has nothing to do with it. She's in some bumfucked small town.
They just trick you.
Doesn't even look like a real place.
Yeah. And, like that's Manhattan. Like Superman isn't in Manhattan. He's in Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever.
All right.
Give a shit.
Question time, everybody.
Okay, let's do a couple questions from the Sardonicast community. If you want to leave your own questions, head over to the subreddit where there's a suggestion thread. You can ask us whatever you feel like. Just like, let's do this one here from BBD4116, who says, what is your favorite piece of movie merchandise that you own? Could be anything from a t-shirt to a poster or whatever.
Ooh, cool.
I'm quite fond of this amazing bulk like bust.
Oh my god, really?
They sent me. Yeah. It's
I
like
didn't know such a thing
carved
existed.
out of like polystyrene. No, I think they only made like 2 or 3 of them. So it's like a rare one. It's one of my
Nice.
rare things.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
I have some movie memorabilia that's signed. You know, I have a Breaking Bad poster that's signed. I have Chris Nolan's one of his scripts, Dark Knight, like signed, like a production script they used on set. Yeah,
cool.
I like some movie memorabilia. Yeah, that stuff's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've got a special edition VHS copy of Being John Malkovich that has a bunch of like Russian dolls with the characters' faces on them that go inside each other, and that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then also, I guess my Lion King Laserdisc, which is just like this huge fucking thing, and it's so weird, but it's got a bunch of special features that I needed for my my video I'm still working on. So
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. I have so many movie memorabilia stuff. I have a ton of VHSs, that I don't watch. I just have them for collection, like like James Bond movies I have. Stuff like that. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's like shit like that. Like
I've got a
that kind of
fondness.
shit.
I've got like the Fargo poster, the like stitched one. That looks cool.
Oh, okay.
And
I like getting vinyls of like movie soundtracks. I do that. Yeah.
all right, next question.
Okay, let's do this one from Simple Ambassador. What was your worst experience at a theme park? Have any bad theme park experiences?
Some guy like yelled at my mom, like some random guy.
Yelled at your mum?
Yeah,
Why?
for no reason. Like he was just like an asshole. Yeah. Like just like we were walking, he just fucking yelled at her. Yeah, that's probably like the worst.
What was the theme
And he
park?
walked
That's a
away.
great worst experience. it's not
Yeah,
as bad as
like, what
things
the
could
fuck?
be.
Yeah, but it was just
Yeah,
like, what the
yeah.
fuck? It's just like this guy just like scared us. It's
Yeah.
like a family. Whatever.
Oh,
You live in
shit.
New York.
know
You
what
should be
he did.
used to people yelling at you for no reason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I guess it was
You should be
training.
used to crazy people.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't remember much about it, but one of the rides got stuck that I was in West Edmonton Mall.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Ride's getting stuck. That
Yeah,
sucks.
What was the
that
ride?
annoying. That happened for a while. There's probably a worse one than that.
I've had to get kicked off a ride. Like the ride breaks down halfway and they have to take us off of it.
Oh no.
Like that happened with Splash Mountain. We had to like leave Splash Mountain halfway through the ride
Oh shit.
Yeah.
because it was
Yeah.
racist. No, it's because it broke down.
We're canceling
Yeah, they're
this
replacing that
mid-ride.
Yeah, mid-ride they
time's
cancel it.
up.
Like, sorry, we're replacing this with the
Dismantle
Princess and the
it.
Frog
Get
ride
rid
right now.
Hey, get out of here. Move along.
Yeah, I've got a memory of like going to Legoland and going on like the dragon ride when I was a kid, and like the bar that's supposed to come down and kind of secure you in was like totally loose in a way that did not seem correct.
Oh, fuck.
So it's like dangerously like holding it down the whole time. Like, oh my god, this does not feel safe. That was probably my worst experience. That
Oh, fuck.
sucked.
There's
Yeah.
a funny one when I was like, I think I was like 13 years old maybe when I went to Disney World, the only time I was there. And I think I might have been younger, I don't know. But I remember my parents were like to me and my brother like, "Oh, you can go in this area." I think it was at the Universal Studios we were visiting. It was like those McDonald's play place things. It was like one of those, but it wasn't McDonald's. It was
Oh,
just
yeah,
a part, I don't remember what it was. Woody Woodpecker or something. They're like, "Yeah, go in there, but you can't get separated. Adam, you have to stay with your brother." It was like, "Okay." But I think my brother like understood that I could get in trouble if he didn't stay with me. And so we got separated. And and then we came out and they were like mad at me. And they were like, "You can't go on this ride now." I was like, "No." And the only reason I remember this is because there's a photo of all of us there and everyone's smiling except me. I'm doing like a pouty face. I'm like, I'm not happy right now.
Oh,
Yeah. I
Woody
was
Woodpecker's in
mad.
Universal.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's it. That was my only.
That's why I said that. I said it was probably
Oh,
Universal.
it was Universal.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, cool. All right.
Alright. Let's do this one then from Estos and Misojos. People often comment on review channels, particularly the needle drop. Things like, thanks, now I can finally like this album / movie / whatever. Usually these comments are made as a joke, but they seem to be based on people who genuinely seek to validate, if not construct, their opinion based on that of professional critics. How do you feel about this notion of people who watch reviews in order to feel like they're allowed to like / dislike something? Is it something critics should be concerned about when producing their reviews?
Ooh, I saw that with the Spider-Man reaction. Like, I saw people put our reviews up, and they're like, "Oh, okay, it's okay to like it." But it was okay to like it before. Like, it's not, you know. I'm speaking from my experience anyway. Yeah, I think you should make up your own mind and not be a fucking Muppet sheep.
Stop watching our videos.
just listen to me and go, "Oh, that's someone else's opinion," and like move on with your life.
I think that sometimes people have a bit of malleability to them in the sense that, like, someone can experience something about a film and be like, "Oh, I was kind of indifferent to that," and then they can listen to us trash it and be like, "Okay, yeah, you're right, that is kind of bad." I think that in that sense, people's perspectives can be changed, or maybe they could hear us praising a film and be like, "Oh, you know what, that is a really cool thing I didn't know about the film, and that is a neat way to look at it," or, you know, maybe people misinterpret it in some way. I think that there's just a good chunk of people out there that they're not necessarily sheep, but they seek out other people and watch content from people like us because they're not either as strong in their opinions, or they might not necessarily know how to formulate their own opinions in the same way or verbalize them in the same way. And then hearing someone else like us might help with that certainty. It might solidify their feelings a bit, or it might change it a bit.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's a lot of people out there that would be like, "This is the worst movie ever," and then I go, "Well, I liked it," and they go like, "I liked it actually." I don't think that there's a lot of people like that, but I think that there is something in between where, you know, there's some malleability there, you know.
Yeah, critical faculty. It's difficult. I don't know. I focus more on like just the way I consume, as I like trying to get a broad like selection of opinions, and you can kind of pick and choose. Oh yeah, that's a good point there. Maybe that's like not the strongest point, but yeah, I don't really understand if this is like a problem or whatever. It does seem to be way more of like a joke that people tend to put in the comment sections.
It's a joke, but you know, when people are ironic, it's hard to tell if they're being serious.
Yeah,
or not.
that's the thing.
Yeah, like I don't just want people to be validated by like some guy online. That doesn't make you right.
I think the people that look at things like this also kind of have like I don't know if it's called a selection bias or confirmation bias, but like, you know, so if I make a video and, you know, I don't align myself in my opinions most of the time with, you know, a lot of other people, I'm not going to have the same opinions as like Angry Joe on most films, right? Mm-hmm. And so someone who might align their opinions more with Angry Joe's, they might look at my video being posted of something where I'm being critical of something that Angry Joe likes. They might look at my comments section being like, "Wow, what a bunch of mindless people just following whatever Adam says. Make up your own mind, people." But what they don't understand is that there's a lot of people who already gravitate towards having the same opinions as me or as you or as Angry Joe, and we choose who we want to follow, right? You're going to follow the people that you agree with more, that you're going to follow the people that you understand more. But for some reason, I guess a lot of people just lack the ability to understand that other people's brains function differently. So when someone has an opinion that's not their own, they go, "Oh, well, you must only think this because you're listening to what that person says." When they can't possibly imagine this this scenario in which people could be like coming to these conclusions because they believe it's the correct conclusion to come to. You know, as we see the same thing with all like the entire COVID discourse. It's like, "Oh, you're just listening to what the media tells you. You're just listening to what Fauci tells you," and you see it on both sides of like, "Oh, you just can't understand that someone would come to that conclusion by themselves, so you have to tell yourself, oh, someone else told you, and that's you just don't you don't think about anything, and you're just a sheep, blah blah blah." It's just that same thing. People just lack of empathy or understanding of other people's perspectives, or that a brain outside your own might exist on this planet. Anyway,
yeah, it's just a lot of sort of dumb people out there, you know.
Yeah.
And there's my rant.
I guess that's it. Don't be a sheep.
Wake up, sheeple.
Oh, we did it. We did it. Okay. Vince is depressed. Has one for us. Have you ever read someone's text who was on their phone in the theater? I did when I saw Eternals. The guy in the row underneath me was sexting.
Oh, that's funny.
I almost guarantee he had a better time than watching the movie, so I don't even blame this guy, to be honest.
I don't know if I've always been close enough to be able to do that. I have never read what someone was texting on their phones. Maybe I have. Maybe I didn't remember. I don't. It wasn't important enough for me to remember if I ever did. Occasionally, I'm tempted to just take my phone out and then shove my screen in their face to be like, hey, you want to do phone? Is this what we're doing in the theater? You want to look at phones?
I swear, like, I saw someone in the row in front of me. It wasn't during the movie, but during, like, the ads, just, like, scrolling through his, like, hentai on Tumblr.
Hell yeah.
Ooh.
That's one. Yeah.
You take
one.
that, society. You can't tell me what to do.
Yeah, during Spider-Man, some guy was like going through DeviantArt of like Spider-Man stuff right in front of me. No, that's not true.
There's a certain level that you hit in degeneracy where you stop giving a shit. Where all of your fucks are gone.
Clearly, there's some point.
It happens to the best.
If you're going to the movie theater for that, that's like some Travis Bickle shit. It's like when he went to the porno theater with the girl on a date.
Oh, yeah.
It's like that level of like weirdos.
No, yeah, never read somebody's text, but they shouldn't be texting.
I hate people
also,
text during the
okay, yeah, like what the
someone was texted during Spider-Man.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. There have been points in my life where I've gone to see a movie, and during that movie, I knew that there was like a message that was like super important, where it's like, okay, I need to teach them how to do this, and there's like a limited amount of time, and like they're gonna lose like money if they're, some weird, or like a family emergency that I'm expecting a message over. And you know what you can do? You can just like step outside for a minute, or I've got an even better one. I've done this before. I haven't done it in years, but you stick your head underneath your shirt, and then you pull your phone underneath the bottom of your shirt, and then the light doesn't get anywhere else. And you just do that. If you have to like press a few buttons and respond to one message, there it is. It doesn't disturb anybody else because the light's not going anywhere. It's under your shirt. Stick your phone under your shirt through the bottom, and then stick your head down like you're looking down. You're gonna see your chest or whatever and the phone. Do that for like a second, and then you're done. Why do you have to let everybody else see the light coming from your phone?
Yeah.
Just consider what other people might be thinking or feeling for 1 second.
Yeah, that's too
just
conscientious.
Like the theater, really. Just like leave the theater for a second, go text. Like I've left the theater before just to go cough and then come back. Like,
hell yeah.
Just to cough. Like,
that's funny.
Although that's like a dangerous thing. Yeah. I don't want to scare people in the theater. Yeah. Everyone's like, yeah. Although the mask mandate's back now here. Or mandate or whatever. But yeah, you have to wear masks in theaters again.
Yeah,
okay,
same here.
Yeah.
I don't think the mask thing ever left in BC.
There was a while they kind of did away with it, but it's back now because I think it's kind of going up again, the curve or
Omicron
with the new variant.
Yeah, it's really bad.
And it's like flu season. It's like gets colder. It's easier to get sick. Yeah. I don't mind it. I want people to be safe. Get your vaccine.
It's all. I don't know. I don't mind the mask shit because it's like. It's not even like that uncomfortable. I've been doing like personal trainer shit at like a gym. I haven't reached the point yet where I've been like, I'm taking off my mask. I'm the only one that wears a mask there, but I don't care. Whatever. I'm just doing it. I still haven't reached the point yet where I'm like, this is too uncomfortable because I don't know. In some ways, I'm just like, I'm tough. Whatever. I'm strong. I'm not a beta.
It definitely needs to point where everyone gets their vaccine and we can fucking move on. But I mean,
yeah, we'll see.
Clearly, people are having issues with that still.
Yeah, I got my booster booked.
Someone I know wasn't let into Spider-Man because they weren't vaccinated or they didn't have a mask.
Oh really? Are they checking like vaccine?
I don't think they had a mask, but he wasn't vaccinated either.
Oh right.
Just like it's just one guy I know. He's one of those.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's funny. Well, whatever. You didn't get to see Spider-Man. So.
You can't force people what to do.
Yeah.
Well, you can in China.
Yeah.
And that's where their movies make $1 billion.
One more, last question.
Okay, let's end on this one then from OK Arachnid 1294. Hey guys, want to preface my question by saying that I'm a big fan. Thanks for all the great content that has been a great source of relief for me over the last 2 years. As for my question, what are your thoughts on the idea that big budget movies should not be put on the same level as films with lower budgets? This idea states that movies with big budgets, like the Transformers movies and Suicide Squad, did not deserve the slander it received from some. due to them being far more competently made than movies with low budgets. And I've seen this argument
That's
pop up quite a few times in conversations relating to movies like those. I remember talking with cinephiles on my old Reddit account who were defending Transformers 2 as an alright movie, as it had production values that actually looked like it was from a movie, compared to a low-budget movie with Birdemic, and had much more natural performances than movies like Birdemic. I don't agree with this argument, I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
What? So, okay, when they were saying low-budget movies, I wasn't thinking comparing to Birdemic. I thought they were going to compare to, like, I don't know, Primer or some shit, where it's like, oh, you didn't have as much production value,
I was thinking
so therefore
2 million.
it's worse.
Like low budget,
what
like
do they
Whiplash
mean?
is low budget.
Well, now I don't understand what they're talking about. As soon as they said Birdemic, I'm like, what is this even about? Like, yeah, sure, Birdemic's bad, and so is Transformers. I don't understand the conversation here.
I guess they're trying to say that that Transformers and Suicide Squad and movies like it
Are inherently better because more money was spent on them?
Yeah, that's basically what they're saying.
No, I think that can make it worse. I think that can make
That
it
isn't
worse
always
because you
true.
have
it gets
more,
under my skin more.
You have less of an excuse of making a bad movie.
Yeah.
Someone with no money has you're destined to make a bad movie. It's an achievement if you don't. Right? If you have all the money and writers and Hollywood and infrastructure available, you have no excuse when you make a bad movie.
Yeah, crews of like hundreds of people. Yeah, it's more.
Yeah,
it gets under my skin.
You're a
more.
system. You're a factory-produced film. You should be able to understand what to make.
Definitely, that's the bad thing about that system and like movies with $200 million budgets. But there's directors who make good movies with budgets. I'd say it's more like what you do with the money rather than the amount of money you have and like who's the team behind it. I think that has more of an effect on the movie.
It's also like a ridiculous comparison, like Suicide Squad v Birdemic. Like they're both bad for different reasons. That's why you got to take the context into account. Like, why would you?
Yeah, Birdemic's like one of the worst movies ever made ever.
Yeah,
like that's barely a movie. Like Suicide Squad. What can you say about it? There was Olivia Davis in it. Like what? What are you gonna say about it? Like, it had name actors and there were some CG effects. So what? You still couldn't see shit that was going on. The writing was awful. All the effect, like sure, they spent money on some effects, but they were cringe effects. You remember that Hot Topic bullshit editing? Remember that shit? They spent money on that. That's more embarrassing. That because they put money into that, making it bad.
Yeah.
And Suicide Squad is a bad example too, because Jared Leto is in that, and that's like the most embarrassing thing ever put on screen.
He's terrible. Yeah. Transformers is not a great example either, because those are pretty incompetent.
Did I say Olivia Davis? I meant to say Viola Davis.
Yeah, you did say that.
Yeah, those movies are really incompetent in terms of storytelling. Like Transformers 2 didn't even have a script, I think, when they were making it. Like they just because it was during the writer's strike. Like the plot of that movie is total junk.
Yeah,
like that's incompetent.
I've only seen it once. I saw it once in theaters, and I vividly remember things that I hated about it.
It depends on the team. I mean, Christopher Nolan makes great movies for $200 million, or Martin Scorsese made Wolf of Wall Street for $100 million, or Alien Covenant. Not Alien Covenant. Ridley Scott usually does good stuff with a big budget. Not always. Sometimes he does. I liked House of Gucci. Okay. Yeah, it just depends on the team and like it's not like more money equals better movie.
The more resources you have, the worse the movie is. If you make a bad movie, it's like more embarrassing.
Yeah, right. The more you're putting into it, like you can make most great films are like for $2 million or $10 million. Like those aren't extremely high budgets, but they could be really great. They can also have more impact than like bigger budget films. They're more focused sometimes.
If the only way you can defend Suicide Squad is by saying at least it's not Birdemic, like
you've already
it's not like a strong point.
You already shot yourself in the foot there.
Yeah.
It's dumb. All right, thank you for the questions. We got a recommendation from Alex, I think.
Yeah, I think it's me. I think it's back to me.
And also, we're recording this episode super early, so if you have a long one, now's the time, Alex. Because even including Christmas, we've still got a while until we're back recording again. We're not recording again together for like a month.
Ooh, okay.
So whatever
that's
longest.
A good point. Okay, I might do a trilogy then, because I was planning something else, but I hadn't considered that. I think it has to be done then. This one that's been on the tip of my tongue, like wanting to be recommended for a while, but I wanted to make sure there was enough time between DreamWorks trilogies for it to happen. I want to talk about Kung Fu Panda trilogy.
Yeah,
do it. All right, let's do it.
I think it's time. Let's do Kung Fu Panda 1, 2, and 3.
Cool.
Excellent.
Not too much of an investment, you know.
All right, if you don't want to be spoiled for the Kung Fu Panda trilogy, watch them before the next episode. These episodes are published every 2 weeks. You can hear them early if you go to sardonicast.com, sign up for premium, $2 a month, or patreon.com/sardonicast. Also, we got merch. And I forgot to mention during the Supergirl discussion, now that we're at the recommendations thing again, there was a director's cut. That was like 15 more minutes than the 2 hour and 5 minute cut already. Yeah, I was like, no fucking way am I watching that. Yeah, there was a 15-minute longer version of Supergirl.
Holy shit.
That's what that film needed.
Yeah.
To be longer.
Wow.
Yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, that wasn't on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Didn't put that on HBO Max. Yeah, no wonder.
I bought the Blu-ray.
Like, you need any more
the
of
second
Supergirl,
disc was
right?
like director's cut. I was like, what? I looked it up. Yeah.
That's funny.
Kung Fu Panda trilogy. I'm excited to talk about it. I don't remember if I've even seen the third film, honestly. But whatever. Okay. I'm excited to talk about it. Hyped. And I guess we'll have seen the new Matrix before then, too. So we'll see if we can fit all that in one episode.
Okay. Very nice.
Cool. Thank you all for listening. Bye-bye, everybody. Shrek something.
Bye.
Peace.
Have a good Christmas.
Shrek, bye.
You can't say have a good Christmas to the audience, though, because they'll...
I hope you had a good Christmas.
Christmas is... Oh, had. Okay.